Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered what would happen if the hours you spend sleeping could actually transform your entire waking reality? What if those 7 to 8 hours weren't just rest, but the most powerful manifestation time in your entire day? Tonight, I want to introduce you to something that might forever change how you think about sleep. Has this ever happened to you? You spend your days affirming, visualizing, and working toward your dreams. Yet the results seem frustratingly distant. The missing piece might not be in your waking hours at all. When we close our eyes at night, we enter what Florence Shinn described as a sacred chamber of creation. A realm where the conscious mind steps back and the subconscious opens fully to receive our deepest impressions. This isn't ordinary sleep we're talking about. It's a powerful creative state where the seeds of tomorrow are planted, where what you assume transforms into what you experience. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Most people approach sleep as merely physical restoration, a necessary break before returning to the same struggles tomorrow. But what if sleep is actually the bridge between your current reality and the life you've been longing to create? Stay with me until the end, because this ancient wisdom, now supported by modern understanding of the subconscious mind, could be the transformation you've been searching for. The difference is profound. When you fall asleep reviewing your problems, worrying about tomorrow, or feeling the absence of what you desire, you're essentially programming another day of the same experiences. But when you enter sleep as though your wishes are already fulfilled, feeling the gratitude, joy, and certainty of having received, you activate creation in its most powerful form. Tonight, you'll learn to stop going to bed as a beggar, pleading with the universe for change, and instead fall asleep as a creator who knows their desires are already manifested. What you're about to discover might surprise you, especially when you begin experiencing those subtle shifts in your external world, unexpected opportunities, synchronicities that seem almost magical, and solutions appearing where there once were only problems. This isn't about forcing yourself to believe something that isn't true. It's about recognizing a deeper truth that transcends your current circumstances. It's about understanding that the world you see with your physical eyes is merely an echo of past assumptions, while the world you're creating through your imagination tonight is already real on a different level of consciousness. As we prepare to enter this sacred space together, I invite you to let the outside world fade away. The demands, the concerns, the endless to-do lists, all of it can wait. Right now, we're stepping into a chamber where time works differently, where if these teachings on conscious sleep and manifestation resonate with you, subscribe to join our community of divine dreamers. Each video is designed to awaken another aspect of your creative power, where the veil between your conscious mind and the deeper realms of creation grows thin. Think of this as the most important you'll ever undertake, not across oceans or continents, but inward to the sanctuary that exists at the core of your being. As the outer world gradually fades, something remarkable begins to happen. Your awareness descends like a diver, moving deeper into still waters, passing through layers of thought and sensation, until you reach what Florence Scovel Shinn called the inner sanctuary. This isn't a metaphorical place. It's a genuine shiftness that occurs as external stimuli recede and your attention turns inward. What makes this inner sanctuary so powerful is that within its sacred chambers, the burdens you've been carrying cannot follow. The roles you play, the relationships that define you, the responsibilities that weigh on your shoulders, all remain outside this threshold. This is why so many people report their most profound revelations coming just before sleep or upon waking. They've unknowingly accessed this inner realm, where transformation happens effortlessly. The hidden truth that few discover is that this sanctuary isn't merely a place of refuge. It's the control room of creation itself. While your physical body rests, something within you remains vibrantly aware, eternally conscious. The mystics throughout history have called this your true self, your divine essence, your I am consciousness. It's the part of you that observes your thoughts without being your thoughts, that exists beyond your stories and circumstances. This consciousness isn't dimmed by sleep. Quite the opposite. As your analytical mind relaxes its grip, as the chatter of daily concerns grows quiet, this deeper awareness actually intensifies. It's like watching the stars appear as daylight fades. They were always there, simply outshined by the sun. Your eternal self, your I am, is always present, simply overshadowed by the noise of daily life. What's fascinating about this journey is how it completely reverses our normal approach to manifestation. Most of us have been taught that happens through constant effort, through doing, striving, and forcing. Yet, the greatest minds and most profound spiritual teachings reveal a different pathway altogether. In this inner sanctuary, change occurs not through effort, but through identity, through being rather than doing. Here's the revelation that has transformed countless lives. In this state, your imagination isn't just creating pleasant daydreams. It's actively restructuring the invisible template from which your reality springs forth. Florence Scovel, Shinn explained that in this sacred space, imagination becomes a temple, not merely a mental faculty. The images you hold, the feelings you embrace, the state you assume, these aren't wishes sent out to the universe. They're the direct language of creation itself. Your word literally becomes flesh. Not metaphorically, not someday if you're worthy enough, but through an immutable law of consciousness that operates whether you believe in it or not. Just as gravity doesn't require your belief to function, this principle works silently behind the scenes of every human experience. The profound impact of this understanding lies in its utter simplicity. You don't need special tools or years of training to access this power. You simply need to recognize what's already happening each night as you drift towards sleep. That transition state, that liminal space between waking and dreaming, is your direct access to the creative forces of the universe. Think of it as the difference between pushing a boulder uphill or releasing it at the top to roll down naturally. Most approaches to creating change are boulder-pushing exercises, exhausting, full of strain and setbacks. But this inner journey allows you to set forces in motion that then unfold naturally, carrying you toward your desire without constant effort. The decisions you make in these moments, particularly about who you are rather than what you want, ripple outward through your entire life experience. This isn't positive thinking or mere visualization. It's a fundamental shift in identity that automatically reorganizes your entire reality to match. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens when you truly embrace this I am consciousness and how it differs completely from the typical manifestation techniques you may have tried before. The journey becomes increasingly fascinating as we explore how your subconscious mind responds to these moments of alignment. If you're feeling those moments of recognition as I'm speaking, write in the comments, "The sanctuary within me is real." Your subconscious mind, which makes up roughly 95% of your total consciousness, doesn't distinguish between what's happening in your physical reality and what's vividly imagined in this inner sanctuary. But here's where most people encounter an invisible barrier, one that silently sabotages their efforts at transformation without them ever realizing it. This barrier is your current identity, the self-concept you've been carrying, often for decades. It's the collection of beliefs, memories, and assumptions that tell you who you are and what's possible for you. And here's the revelation that changes everything. This identity, the one that has experienced lack, harbored doubts, and lived in fear, cannot cross the threshold into your desired experience. It's like trying to enter a royal banquet dressed in prison clothes. The abundance, love, or success you seek operates at a different frequency than the identity that's been struggling to attain it. This is why so many sincere efforts at manifestation hit an invisible ceiling. You're trying to create a new reality, while firmly anchored to the identity that matches your old one. Florence Scovel. Shinn understood this profound principle when she taught that true transformation requires a death before a rebirth can occur. The death isn't physical. It's the willing release of who you believed yourself to be. This release isn't about self-rejection or harsh criticism of your past. Quite the opposite. It's about honoring the identity that got you this far with reverence and gratitude, while recognizing that it cannot take you where you're now ready to go. The journey of consciousness isn't linear. It's cyclical, moving through seasons of growth, release, and renewal. Just as a snake must shed skin to continue growing, you must periodically release identities that once served you, but now constrain your expansion. This is the hidden wisdom behind every authentic spiritual tradition. The understanding that transformation isn't about adding more to who you are, but about letting go of who you're not. As you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine that the identity you've been carrying with all its limitations and struggles is being gently laid to rest. Not with judgment or frustration, but with compassion and understanding. That self served a purpose. It protected you. It navigated challenges. It brought you to this very moment of awakening. But it cannot enter the kingdom of fulfillment you now seek. What happens in the space that remains after this release is nothing short of miraculous. Nature abhors a vacuum, and consciousness is no different. As the old self dissolves, what emerges isn't emptiness or loss. It's a revelation of what was always there, beneath the accumulated layers of limiting beliefs and painful experiences. To continue this journey of transformation through the wisdom of Florence Scovel, simply click subscribe. Your decision to join us is itself an act of conscious creation. This revelation is your true nature, your authentic essence that exists prior to all the stories you've told about yourself. It's like clearing away clouds to reveal the sun that was shining all along. The light behind the veil of your effort begins to shine through naturally, effortlessly, as if it had been waiting for this moment of recognition. This isn't some abstract philosophical concept. It's a tangible shift in the fabric of your being. People who experience this release often describe a lightness, a sense of coming home, a recognition rather than an acquisition, because you're not becoming something new. You're uncovering what was always there. Behind the scenes of this transformation is an alchemical process where the seed of your true identity, long dormant beneath the soil of conditioned thinking, finally breaks through into the light. This seed contains everything you've been seeking externally: the abundance, the clarity, the peace, the love. These qualities aren't achievements to be earned, but attributes of your essential nature, waiting to be expressed. The profound mindset shift occurs when you realize that manifestation isn't about getting something you lack, but about expressing what you already are in your truest state. This is why genuine masters of manifestation focus not on techniques, but on presence, on being rather than doing or having. The impact of this single understanding, when fully embodied, creates ripples across every dimension of your life experience. Relationships transform, not because others change, but because you're engaging from a different level of consciousness. Financial circumstances shift not through magical thinking, but because your decisions, inspirations, and actions naturally align with abundance rather than scarcity. Your journey now takes an exciting turn as we explore how to nurture this seed of transformation, how to water it with consistent attention, and protect it from the old thought patterns that might try to uproot it before it's fully established. The decisions you make in these early stages of transformation are crucial. If you're feeling this shift beginning within you as we speak, write in the comments, "I'm shedding my old skin." The nurturing of this seed requires something that might initially feel counterintuitive: a complete surrender of the self that has been striving so hard to improve its circumstances. This isn't the passive surrender of one who's given up, but the profound letting go of someone who recognizes a deeper truth. The catalyst for authentic transformation isn't more effort. It's a willing release. Think about this revelation: the version you that has been trying so desperately to manifest change. The one who has affirmed, visualized, and worked toward better circumstances. That self is actually the very barrier to the breakthrough you seek. Not because your intentions weren't pure or your efforts weren't sincere, but because transformation doesn't happen through addition. It happens through subtraction. Florence Scovel Shinn expressed this wisdom when she taught that we must say goodbye to the one who tried, doubted, and waited. This isn't self-rejection. It's self-liberation. It's recognizing that the identity built around lack and struggle cannot be the foundation for abundance and ease. That self, with its familiar patterns and comfortable limitations, must return to the dust from which it came, allowing something entirely new to emerge from stillness and truth. This is where the journey takes an unexpected detour from conventional wisdom. Most personal development frameworks encourage you to build a better version of yourself layer by layer, habit by habit. But the spiritual alchemy we're exploring works in reverse. It strips away what isn't authentically you, revealing the diamond that was always there beneath the accumulated layers of doubt, fear, and limitation. What emerges from this willing death is not something you create through effort, but something you discover through surrender. Behind the scenes of this metamorphosis is a profound identity shift that occurs at the deepest levels of consciousness. The old name you've been answering to, the struggling one, the lacking, the unworthy one, falls away in the silence of true self-recognition. And in that sacred void, a new name rises, not shouted in desperation, but whispered with absolute certainty. This name isn't something arbitrary or invented. It's the most ancient sound in creation. The original vibration from which all things emerge: I am. This isn't merely a statement, it's a frequency, a resonance that aligns you with the creative power of the universe itself. The hidden truth that masters throughout history have discovered is that this name is spoken not to the universe as a plea, but from the universe as a declaration. It's the voice of creation itself, speaking through you, claiming its rightful expression. When you speak this name, you're not requesting change. You're acknowledging what already is at the deepest level of reality. The revelation that transforms your entire approach to manifestation is this: I am is not a technique to get something. It's a recognition of what you already are. When you declare I am wealth, or I am love, or I am health, you're not trying to convince yourself of something untrue. You're aligning with the frequency that already exists within the fullness of your being. What makes this different from typical affirmations is the quality of your speaking. Most people repeat affirmations with the subtle undercurrent of striving, of trying to convince themselves of something they don't truly believe. But the I am is spoken not with striving, but with sovereign stillness, with the quiet confidence of one who remembers rather than one who hopes. This mindset shift completely transforms your relationship with desire. Instead of chasing what you want from a place of emptiness, you recognize that the qualities you seek, abundance, joy, peace, love, are not distant treasures to be hunted, but aspects of your true nature waiting to be expressed. The journey becomes one of remembrance rather than acquisition. The impact of speaking from this of sovereign stillness cannot be overstated. When you declare your truth from this consciousness, you're not trying to manipulate external reality. You're speaking with the authority of one who knows that internal and external are simply different aspects of the same unified field. Your word becomes law, not through force, but through alignment with what already is. This brings us to a fascinating insight about the creative process itself. Most of us have been taught that creation works from the outside and that we must change our circumstances to change how we feel. But the wisdom traditions reveal that true creation works from the inside out. From state of being to circumstance, from identity to experience. This understanding flips the entire manifestation paradigm on its head. Now let's explore how this new identity, this I am consciousness, begins to restructure not just your thoughts, but the very substance of your life experience. As you embrace this sovereign vibration, something remarkable begins to occur in the field of possibilities surrounding you. If you recognize this sovereign power awakening within you, write in the comments, I speak from I am. The field of possibilities begins to reorganize itself around this new declaration, because you're no longer planting a temporary wish or fleeting desire. You're planting an entirely new identity. This distinction represents a watershed moment in your manifestation journey. Most approaches focus on getting something external to fill an internal void. But the wisdom we're exploring works in reverse. It fills the internal space first, allowing the external to naturally reflect this fullness. When you declare, I am wealth, or I am health, or I am love, you're not performing a technique. You're claiming your birthright. And the remarkable difference lies in where this declaration originates within you. Most affirmations come from the intellectual mind, the brain that analyzes, plans, and so often doubts. But true identity statements rise from a much deeper place, from what ancient traditions called the belly, or the core of your being. This is why genuine transformation feels so different from typical manifestation work. It doesn't feel like you're trying to convince yourself of something untrue. Instead, it feels like remembering something you've always known but temporarily forgotten. It resonates as a certainty rather than a chant, as recognition rather than persuasion. The blueprint for this shift actually exists in nature all around us, in every seed that contains the complete coding for what it will become. The revelation that changes everything about manifestation is understanding that the moment you plant this seed of new identity in the fertile soil of your consciousness, a profound gestation process begins. Florence described this as the womb of silence, a sacred space where creation occurs according to immutable spiritual laws, not unlike the physical laws that govern pregnancy and birth. Just as a physical womb doesn't display its fruit immediately, this inner womb of consciousness doesn't instantly manifest your desires in tangible form. And this is precisely where most people abandon their practice, in that crucial gap between planting and harvesting. When we don't see immediate evidence of change, the skeptical mind quickly dismisses the entire process as ineffective. But the masters of manifestation understand the journey behind the scenes. They know that powerful forces are at work, even when nothing appears to be happening on the surface. The womb doesn't just passively hold the seed. It actively guards, nourishes, and conceives. This is why the pregnant pause between your declaration and its visible manifestation isn't empty waiting. It's filled with invisible activity as consciousness reorganizes itself around your new identity. During this sacred gestation period, the universe is literally rearranging circumstances, inspirations, opportunities, and connections to align with who you've declared yourself to be. The mindset breakthrough. When you realize that doubt during this period is like opening the oven door too soon while baking bread. It interrupts the very process that would otherwise unfold perfectly. Trust in this context isn't blind faith. It's understanding the mechanics of how creation actually works. Just as you wouldn't dig up a seed every day to check if it's growing, the wise creator doesn't constantly question whether their desire is manifesting. This shifts your entire relationship with time and patience. What feels like delay is actually divine timing. The perfect orchestration of countless variables to bring your desire into form in the most harmonious way possible. The universe isn't withholding your good. It's preparing the ideal circumstances for its arrival. Circumstances you often couldn't imagine or engineered yourself. The impact of this understanding on your daily experience is profound. Instead of living in a constant state of reaching and grasping, you can rest in the certainty that what you've claimed in consciousness is already in motion. This doesn't mean you become passive. Quite the opposite, you become actively receptive, alert to inspiration, aware of synchronicities, ready to take aligned action when guided. Your decisions during this gestation period become increasingly intuitive rather than strategic. You're no longer trying to make things happen through forced effort. Instead, you're following the breadcrumbs of inspiration that naturally arise from your new identity. This is why genuine masters often appear to manifest with such ease. They're not pushing against reality. They're flowing with the current of creation that springs from their state of being. What's happening at the quantum level during this period is nothing short of miraculous. Your physical brain is literally rewiring itself to support your new identity. Neural pathways associated with your old patterns begin to atrophy, while new connections form to support your emerging self concept. This is the science behind what mystics have always known: that consciousness shapes reality from the inside out. Now, let's explore what happens as this seed begins to germinate. As the first signs of your new identity start to appear, not just in your inner awareness, but in the tangible circumstances of your life, there's a fascinating alchemy that occurs as inner certainty begins to crystallize into outer experience. If you're beginning to understand the power of this sacred gestation period, write in the comments, "I trust the womb of silence." As this new identity takes root within you, a profound shift occurs in your inner landscape. You begin to experience what Florence Shinn called the resurrection, a spiritual awakening where you no longer view yourself as the one who longs for something, but as the one who already possesses it. This resurrection isn't metaphorical. It's a tangible transformation in how you experience reality before any external circumstances have changed. Imagine walking through a familiar room in complete darkness, stumbling over furniture, feeling disoriented and unsure. Then suddenly light floods in. Nothing in the room has physically moved, yet your entire experience transforms instantly. This is what happens in consciousness when resurrection occurs. The furniture of your life may remain temporarily unchanged, but your perception and relationship to it shifts dramatically. The revelation that transforms lives is this: your experience of reality isn't determined by what you have, but by who you are in relationship to it. The moment you step into the identity of the one who already possesses what you desire, you experience an inner liberation that's nothing short of miraculous. It's as if you've been carrying heavy garments of lack and limitation. And in one sacred moment, you let them fall away, standing free in your true essence. If you felt that spark of recognition while watching, press the like button as a simple acknowledgement that this message found its way to exactly where it needed to be. This journey inward reveals the hidden truth that the grave of your old identity is now empty. Those familiar patterns of thinking, feeling, and perceiving that kept you locked in struggle have been transcended. Not through force or effort, but through the simple recognition that they were never truly you. They were temporary garments worn by the infinite consciousness that you truly are. What makes this resurrection so transformative is that it's not something you're trying to create through willpower. It's something you're allowing to emerge naturally as artificial limitations fall away. This is why authentic spiritual awakening feels more like remembering than learning. You're recognizing what was always true beneath the accumulated layers of conditioning. Behind the scenes of this resurrection is a profound neurobiological process. Your brain and nervous system, which have been wired to support your old identity, begin to reorganize themselves around this new center of gravity. This isn't merely psychological. It's a genuine rewiring that influences everything from your stress hormones to your immune function to your perceptual filters. Now that this resurrection has begun, you're ready for perhaps the most powerful aspect of this entire process. Speaking your truth has recognized the creative power of the word, not as metaphor, but as literal creative force. When you speak from this resurrected consciousness, you're not merely describing reality. You're participating in its creation. This is where many seekers miss a crucial distinction. Speaking truth isn't about repeating phrases that contradict your current experience. It's about giving voice to the deeper reality that you've recognized in the silence of your being. You speak the I am followed by what you were once afraid to claim. Not as positive thinking, but authentic recognition of what is already true at the level of essence. The impact of words spoken from this consciousness is vastly different from typical affirmations. When you declare I am abundance or I am health from your resurrected identity, these words carry a resonance that literally restructures your energy field. This isn't mystical thinking. It's aligned with quantum understanding of reality as vibrational patterns rather than solid objects. What happens next is particularly fascinating. This resonance doesn't stay confined to your conscious mind. It begins to settle into your entire nervous system. Your breath changes. The space between your thoughts expands. This is integration happening in real time. The theoretical becoming experiential, the abstract becoming embodied. The mindset revolution occurs when you realize that you don't need to constantly repeat these truths to make them more true. Once spoken from authentic recognition, they begin working silently within you, restructuring your entire relationship with reality. One genuine declaration from the depths of carries more creative power than 1,000 repetitions from the surface mind. This explains why some people seem to manifest with such remarkable ease. They're not using better techniques. They're speaking from a different level of consciousness altogether. Their words aren't attempts to change reality. They're declarations of what they've recognized as already true in the realm of potential. The quantum field from which all physical experience emerges. The decisions you make from this consciousness are qualitatively different. They're not calculated strategies to get what you want. They're natural expressions of who you now know yourself to be. This shift from striving to expressing represents the most profound transformation in the manifestation journey. You're no longer trying to get somewhere. You're living from the arrival point. Let's explore how this resurrected identity begins to express itself not just in your inner experience, but in your everyday actions, choices, and interactions with others. There's a fascinating alchemy that occurs as your external life begins to reorganize itself around your new center of gravity. If you've experienced moments of this resurrection consciousness, even briefly write in the comments, "I am the resurrected self." As your resurrected identity begins to take shape, you naturally enter what mystics throughout history have called the chamber of absorption, a profound state of consciousness where something remarkable occurs. In this sacred space, you no longer need to reach for your desire or strain toward the wish fulfilled. The very notion of chasing your dreams dissolves, replaced by something infinitely more powerful, becoming your dreams in absolute silence. This represents the quantum leap in your manifestation journey. Most approaches keep you perpetually in a state of wanting, of stretching towards something that remains stubbornly outside yourself. But in this chamber of absorption, that entire paradigm collapses. The distance between you and your desire vanishes. Not because the desire has manifested physically yet, but because you've closed the gap in consciousness. The revelation that transforms everything is this: your breath itself becomes the bridge between imagination and incarnation. Each inhale draws the essence of your desire deeper into your being. Each exhale releases resistance to its expression. This isn't metaphorical. It's a literal energy exchange occurring at the quantum level where consciousness interfaces with matter. What makes this chamber so potent is that you're no longer trying to convince yourself of anything. You're not repeating affirmations or visualizing outcomes. You've transcended those preliminary practices. Now you simply rest in the absolute certainty that what you've claimed in consciousness is already yours in essence. This state of being isn't something you do. It's something you allow. The journey behind the scenes is fascinating. Your nervous system, which has been programmed to maintain your old identity, begins to reorganize itself around this new frequency. Your body literally recalibrates to hold this higher vibration, not through effort, but through surrender to what is already true at the deepest level. Florence Shinn understood this profound principle when she taught one of the most powerful manifestation techniques ever revealed: going to sleep as though your wish were already fulfilled. This isn't casual advice. It's a precise spiritual technology that leverages the unique threshold between waking and sleeping to impress your desire upon the subconscious mind. The hidden truth that makes this approach so effective is that sleep represents a daily journey through the veil between worlds. As conscious activity subsides, you enter a liminal space where the boundary between subjective and objective reality grows thin. In this twilight state, the critical faculty that normally filters your precious impressions relaxes, allowing direct access to the subconscious, the creative center that shapes your experience. Going to sleep in the state of your wish fulfilled means you're not thinking about it as a future possibility. You're not imagining as a maybe. You're resting in the absolute certainty that it is already done. This isn't pretense or self-deception. It's aligning with a deeper level of reality where time operates differently, where future possibilities already exist in potential form. The impact of this practice on your manifestation journey cannot be overstated. When you consistently enter sleep from this consciousness, you're programming the most powerful hours of your day, those 7 to 8 hours when your subconscious mind works unimpeded by conscious doubt or resistance. While your body rests, Your inner creator is busy rearranging the quantum field according to your assumed state. This explains why many people report waking up to synchronicities, inspired ideas, or unexpected opportunities after practicing this technique. The subconscious mind, having received clear instructions through your assumed state, begins orchestrating circumstances to bring your desire into physical form. It works with a wisdom and precision that your conscious mind could never engineer. The mindset transformation occurs when you realize that you don't need to micromanage this process. You don't need to figure out how your desire will manifest. Your only responsibility is to maintain the state of already having, particularly as you drift into sleep. This shift from controlling to allowing represents true mastery of manifestation. What happens during sleep is nothing short of miraculous. Your brain cycles through different frequencies from beta to alpha to theta to delta. Each of these states corresponds to different levels of consciousness, with theta and delta providing direct access to the subconscious and superconscious realms. By entering sleep in the state of your wish fulfilled, you're literally encoding your desire into these powerful brain states. The decisions you make before sleep take on new significance when you understand this process. The content you consume, the conversations you engage in, the thoughts you entertain, all influence the state you carry into sleep. Masters of manifestation treat the hour before sleep as sacred, carefully curating their environment and consciousness to maintain alignment with their desired state. This isn't about forcing positive thinking when you feel otherwise. It's about genuine inner alchemy, transforming your energy through conscious choice rather than habitual reaction. When challenges arise, you don't deny them, but you refuse to let them define your state as you enter sleep. Instead, you return to the truth of who you are and what is already yours in consciousness. Now, let's explore how this chamber of absorption extends beyond sleep to infuse your waking hours with the same creative power. There's a fascinating continuity that develops between your sleep state and your daily experience once you begin practicing this ancient wisdom. If you're ready to transform your sleep into a powerful manifestation practice, write in the comments, "I sleep in the wish fulfilled." As this chamber of absorption begins to permeate your waking hours, a profound shift occurs in how you approach visualization itself. Most manifestation practices teach visualization as a technique where you picture your desire like watching a movie, something separate from you, projected onto a mental screen. But the masters of this art understand that true visualization isn't about seeing pictures at all. It's about melting into a feeling that already belongs to you. This revelation transforms your entire approach. You're no longer creating artificial scenes or forcing yourself to believe in something that feels distant. You're remembering a feeling that's already encoded in your consciousness, already part of your energetic makeup. The distinction might seem subtle, but the impact is revolutionary. When you visualize from memory rather than imagination, you bypass the resistance that naturally arises when you're trying to convince yourself of something that doesn't feel authentic. Think about the difference between imagining a home you've never visited versus remembering the feeling of your own home. One requires effort, construction. The other arises effortlessly, wrapped in the warmth of familiarity and belonging. This is the quality Florence Shinn was pointing to, not straining to picture something, but dwelling in it as naturally as you dwell in your own home. The breakthrough insight is that every desire you hold already exists as a potential in your consciousness. You're not creating it from nothing. You're activating a dormant frequency that's been waiting for your recognition. When you understand this, Visualization becomes less about constructing elaborate scenes and more about tuning into feelings that are already present within you. Behind the scenes of this process, something miraculous is happening in your nervous system. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. When you dwell in the feeling of your desire as already fulfilled, your brain produces the same neurochemical responses as if it were physically experiencing that reality. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's established neuroscience that explains why mental rehearsal produces physical results. What makes this approach so much more powerful than conventional visualization is that you're not just creating mental pictures. You're creating a complete sensory and emotional environment that your subconscious mind accepts as real. You're engaging your entire being, body, emotion, and spirit in the experience of desire as already fulfilled. In that profound rest, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Your subconscious mind, that great mirror of creation, receives these impressions not as hopes or wishes, but as instructions. And it receives these instructions not through words or images alone, but through vibration and feeling. This is the hidden language of manifestation that most people miss entirely. Your like on this video creates a ripple in the field of consciousness, helping these teachings reach others who are ready to discover the sacred power of assumption. It's a small gesture with profound impact. The transformative journey occurs as your subconscious, having received these impressions, begins its silent work of reorganizing your entire experience to match who you've become. It doesn't question whether your desire is possible or deserved. It simply accepts the vibration you're holding and begins bringing your external world into alignment with it. This isn't magical thinking. It's the expression of consciousness as the fundamental creative force in the universe. What's fascinating about this process is that your subconscious doesn't work in linear logical steps. It operates holographically, orchestrating synchronicities and connections and your conscious mind could never engineer. It doesn't just change one aspect of your reality. It reorganizes the entire field of your experience to reflect your assumed state. The mindset revolution occurs when you realize you don't need to micromanage this process. You don't need to figure out how your desire will manifest or constantly check for evidence that it's working. Your only responsibility is to maintain a feeling of already having, particularly in those sacred moments before sleep when the subconscious is most receptive. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with the manifestation process. Instead of treating it as a project to be completed or a goal to be achieved, you recognize it as a natural expression of your consciousness. Just as you don't need to manage the beating of your heart or the circulation of your blood, you don't need to manage the manifestation of your desires. You simply need to hold the right state, and the universe handles the details. This explains why some people seem to manifest with such remarkable ease. They're not using better techniques. They're operating from a different level of consciousness altogether. Their desires flow into physical form, not because they're working harder at visualization, but because they've mastered the art of being the vibration of what they desire. The decisions you make from this state have a different quality. They're not calculated strategies to get what you want. They're natural expressions of who you know yourself to be. This shift from striving to expressing represents the most profound transformation in the manifestation journey. When you understand that your subconscious mind is constantly mirroring your inner state, you begin to treat every moment, especially the moments before sleep, as sacred opportunities to impress upon it the truth you wish to experience. You become more selective about the thoughts you entertain, the emotions you indulge, and the conversations you engage in, not from fear but from the wisdom of knowing how powerfully they shape your reality. Now let's explore how this mirror of the subconscious begins to reflect back to you, not just in dreams or intuitive flashes, but in the concrete circumstances of your daily life. There's a fascinating alchemy that occurs as your inner knowing begins to crystallize into outer experience. If you recognize that your subconscious has been faithfully mirroring your inner state all along, write in the comments, "I am the creator of my mirror." As this process deepens, a profound paradigm shift occurs that completely transforms your relationship with manifestation itself. What Florence Scovel understood, perhaps morally than anyone, is that there's a fundamental difference between trying to manifest something and simply embodying it. This distinction represents the watershed moment in your journey from seeker to creator. When you try to manifest, you're operating from the paradigm of separation. You hear your desire there with a gap of time and circumstance between you. But embodiment collapses that entire framework. You don't try to manifest abundance or health or love as something outside yourself. You embody these qualities as expressions of who you already are at the deepest level. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that you don't need to wish for what you already possess in consciousness. Wishing maintains the vibration of absence. It actually reinforces the gap between you and your desire. But becoming eliminates that gap entirely. When you become the state of your fulfilled desire, you're not projecting energy towards some distant goal. You're radiating the essence of your desire from within your being. This shift from projection to radiation represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. It's the difference between reaching for something and allowing it to flow through you. The first requires effort. The second happens naturally as you align with your true nature. This is why masters of manifestation appear to create reality with such remarkable ease. They're not trying harder. They're operating from a different level of consciousness altogether. The journey behind the scenes of this process is fascinating. When you truly embody the state of your fulfilled desire, your entire nervous system reconfigures itself. Your brain chemistry shifts. Your heart coherence increases. Your energy field expands. You literally become a different frequency in the quantum field. And the universe, which is fundamentally vibrational in nature, must respond to this shift. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's aligned with our emerging understanding of consciousness as the fundamental creative force in reality. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize that waiting is just another form of separation. When you wait for your desire to manifest, you're maintaining the vibration of not yet. And not yet is precisely what the universe will reflect back to you. But when you absorb the reality of your desire as already yours, you enter a different relationship with time itself. You're no longer stretched between now and some imagined future. You're complete in this moment, whole in your being, full in your consciousness. To crystallize this embodiment, Florence Scovel taught the powerful practice of creating an imaginal scene. But here again, most people misunderstand the true nature of this technique. They approach it as a visualization exercise, something they project onto a mental screen, like watching a movie of what they want. This approach keeps the desire at arm's length, maintaining that subtle separation that slows manifestation. The transformative insight is that effective imaginal scene isn't something you construct artificially. It's a memory you borrow from your future. This isn't just semantic wordplay. It represents a completely different relationship with your desire. When you remember something, you're not creating it. You're accessing an experience that already belongs to you. The feeling is completely different from trying to imagine something unfamiliar. What makes this approach so powerful is that it engages your entire being, not just your visual faculty. A true imaginal scene is vivid in its emotional reality. You feel it in your body, experience it in your heart, know it in your bones. It's not just seeing yourself in that new home or relationship or state of health. It's feeling the complete sensory and emotional experience as if you're actually there. This is why masters of this practice often advise creating scenes that imply your desire has been fulfilled rather than directly showing it. Instead of visualizing a bank statement with a specific amount, you might remember the feeling of complete financial freedom as you casually decide to buy something without checking the price. Instead of picturing perfect health, you might recall the sensation of boundless energy as you effortlessly climb stairs that once left you winded. The impact of this approach is that it bypasses the analytical mind that might argue with direct representations of your desire. Your subconscious doesn't resist implied fulfillment, the way it might resist direct claims that contradict your current experience. And since the subconscious speaks the language of feeling and symbol, rather than logic, these implied scenes often work more effectively than literal ones. The decisions you make in constructing your imaginal scene reveal much about your relationship with manifestation itself. Are you creating scenes that feel like stretches, like fantasies that require effort to maintain? Or are you accessing memories that feel natural, familiar, as if you're simply recalling something that already belongs to you? The quality of your scene directly influences how readily your subconscious accepts it as real. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens when your imaginal scene begins to take on a life of its own. When it starts appearing in your dreams, influencing your intuition, and gradually reshaping your physical experience. There's a fascinating process that unfolds as these borrowed memories begin to crystallize in your actual timeline. If you've experienced the power of borrowing memories from your future rather than just visualizing, write in the comments. My future memories are real. As these borrowed memories begin to crystallize, you discover perhaps the most transformative aspect of this entire process. The feeling is what makes it real. Most manifestation approaches focus almost exclusively on mental imagery, creating detailed pictures in your mind. But Florence Shinn understood that the image alone is merely the container. The feeling is the actual substance of creation. This revelation completely transforms your approach. Instead of straining to see clearer mental pictures, you allow yourself to feel the emotional reality of your desire as already fulfilled. And remarkably, this feeling doesn't happen only in your imagination. It happens in your physical body. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. When you fully embrace the feeling of your desire as already yours, your body responds accordingly. The breakthrough insight is noticing what happens physiologically when you truly connect with this feeling. Your breath naturally slows and deepens. Your heart rate stabilizes in a coherent rhythm. Your muscles relax. Stress hormones decrease while beneficial neurochemicals increase. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's measurable biology that explains why embodied imagination produces tangible results. Behind the scenes of this process is a fascinating reorganization of your entire nervous system when you anchor into the emotional truth that your desire has already happened. You're not merely thinking about it. You're recalibrating your entire body to match that reality. This embodied knowing carries exponentially more creative power than intellectual visualization alone. What makes this approach so transformative is that it bypasses the analytical mind that might argue with direct visualization. Your logical brain can debate whether you'll ever own that home or heal that condition or find that relationship. But it cannot argue with a feeling that's already present in your body. The I feeling itself becomes the evidence, the proof that transcends intellectual doubt. The mindset revolution happens when you realize that your body doesn't know the difference between a memory of something that happened yesterday and a memory borrowed from your future. Both register as experiential truth in your nervous system. This is why embodied imagination isn't fantasy or escapism. It's actually engaging with a different level of reality that exists beyond linear time. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your manifestation practice. Instead of forcing yourself to believe in something that feels distant, you simply drop into the feeling that already exists within you. This isn't about convincing yourself of anything. It's about recognizing what's already true at the level of essence, at the quantum level of potential. This explains why some people manifest with such remarkable ease. They're not using better visualization techniques. They're allowing themselves to feel the complete reality of their desire in their bodies. They've mastered the art of anchoring into the emotional truth. This already happened, not as affirmation, but as recognition. The decisions you make from this embodied state have a different quality. They're not calculated strategies to get what you want. They're natural expressions of who you know yourself to be. When you feel the reality of financial abundance in your body, you naturally make different choices about money without forcing yourself to follow rules. When you feel the reality of vibrant health in your cells, you naturally move toward choices that support that reality. Now, as this embodied knowing deepens, something fascinating happens. The imaginal scene you've created begins to take on a life of its own through what Florence, Scovel Shinn called sacred repetition. But this repetition is fundamentally different from the mechanical recitation of affirmations or forced visualization. It has an organic quality flowing, naturally like a lullaby, that soothes you into a new state of being. The revelation that transforms your practice is understanding that you're not repeating the scene to make it more real. You're allowing it to repeat because repetition is how the subconscious mind learns. Just as a child learns language through hearing the same words and phrases countless times, your inner world learns a new reality through gentle, consistent exposure to the same vibration. What distinguishes sacred repetition from desperate looping is the quality of your attention. When you loop a scene from anxiety, constantly checking whether it's working, you're actually reinforcing the vibration of doubt and separation. But when you allow the scene to repeat like a beloved melody without strain or attachment, you're teaching your inner world what it means to feel at home in this new vibration. The journey behind the scenes is remarkable. Each time you return to your scene with this quality of gentle attention, neural pathways associated with your new identity strengthen, while those connected to your old patterns begin to fade. Your brain is literally rewiring itself to support your new reality not through force, but through the natural process of neuroplasticity, guided by consistent focus. This explains why consistency in your practice is so much more important than intensity. A few minutes of deeply felt embodiment each day, especially before sleep, creates more lasting transformation than occasional hours of straining to visualize. The subconscious mind responds to regularity, to patterns that indicate this new reality is stable and trustworthy. What's particularly beautiful about this process is how it begins to permeate your dream state. As you consistently repeat your scene with feeling before sleep, your subconscious incorporates these vibrations into your dreams. You may begin noticing symbolic representations of your desire appearing spontaneously in your night visions. This isn't coincidence. It's evidence that your inner world is actively processing and integrating your new reality. Now, I want to explore what happens as this sacred lullaby begins to extend beyond your formal practice sessions into your daily awareness. There's a fascinating evolution that occurs as your borrowed memory starts coloring your perception of everyday events, creating a bridge between your imaginal scene and your physical experience. If you've noticed how feeling your desire in your body changes everything about manifestation, write in the comments. I feel it real. As your practice deepens, you encounter a subtle but powerful revelation that completely transforms your approach to manifestation. When you work with your imaginal scene, you may notice that sometimes the visual elements begin to fade or blur. Most people, when this, immediately try to force the images back into focus, believing the visualization isn't working unless they can maintain crystal clear pictures. But Florence Scovel Shinn understood a profound truth. It is not the image that creates, it is the feeling. This insight represents the watershed moment in your manifestation journey. When the visual aspects of your scene naturally begin to dissolve, don't chase them. Don't strain to recapture specific details or perfect pictures. Simply let the feeling remain. This feeling, this emotional resonance of your desire as already fulfilled, is the actual substance of creation. The images are merely carriers, temporary vehicles designed to transport you to this feeling state. The hidden truth that masters have always known is that consciousness creates through feeling, not through mental pictures. Your subconscious mind, which is the creative agent, doesn't respond primarily to visual information. It responds to the emotional vibration you're emanating. When you understand this, your entire approach shifts. Instead of working harder to visualize better, you simply surrender into the feeling that naturally arises when you connect with the essence of your desire. This feeling becomes your new address of being, the vibrational home from which you operate. Just as your physical address determines what mail arrives at your door, your emotional address determines what experiences arrive in your life. When you consistently dwell in the feeling of your desire as already fulfilled, you're literally programming the universe to deliver circumstances that match that frequency. Behind the scenes of this process is a fascinating restructuring of your entire energy field. Your thoughts, beliefs, and expectations all recalibrate around this new emotional center of gravity. You begin to notice synchronicities appearing in your life. Not because you're forcing them into existence, but because you've aligned yourself with the frequency where they naturally occur. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural unfolding of consciousness expressing itself through form. The mindset breakthrough occurs when you realize you don't need to maintain perfect visualization to manifest effectively. This releases you from the strain and frustration that often accompanies traditional manifestation practices. You simply drop into the feeling. Whenever you think of your desire, allowing that feeling to infuse your being without effort or struggle. The journey of transformation deepens even further when you begin to notice how this feeling state influences your inner dialogue. What Florence Shinn called inner speech. Most people's internal conversations reveal a consciousness of hoping, wanting, or waiting. They say things like, "I hope this works so badly," or "When will this finally happen?" But this inner speech actually reinforces the vibration of absence, perpetuating the very lack they're trying to overcome. The revelation that changes everything is learning to let your inner speech come from a completely different place. Not from the one who hopes, but from the one who remembers. This represents a quantum leap in consciousness. Instead of talking about your desire as something you want to happen in the future, You speak of it as something that has already occurred, something you're fondly recalling from your experience. The impact of this shift cannot be overstated. When you ask yourself, wasn't it wonderful when my health returned? Or, wasn't it amazing how easily that money came to me? You're engaging a completely different level of consciousness than when you say, I hope I get better, or I need that money to come. The first creates from completion. The second creates from lack. What makes this approach so powerful is that it engages your entire being in a state of gratitude and wonder, emotions that naturally align with fulfillment rather than wanting. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're simply speaking as if you're recalling a precious moment from long ago, activating the genuine feeling of remembrance rather than the strain of hoping. This form of inner speech does something remarkable to your nervous system. It shifts you out of the stress response associated with wanting and into the relaxation response associated with having. Your body literally begins to reorganize its biological processes to support this new state. Stress hormones decrease, immune function improves, and your entire physiology begins to operate in a more coherent, harmonious pattern. The decisions you make from this state of remembrance have a completely different quality than those made from a state of wanting. When you're speaking from remembrance, you naturally move toward choices that align with your fulfilled desire without forcing or straining. Your actions become expressions of who you already are rather than attempts to become something you're not. This explains why some people seem to manifest with such remarkable ease while others struggle despite using the same techniques. The difference isn't in the methods themselves, but in the consciousness from which those methods are applied. Those who create reality effortlessly have mastered the art of speaking from remembrance rather than hope. Your journey now takes on a fascinating dimension. As you begin to notice how this inner speech permeates not just your formal practice sessions, but your everyday thinking. Throughout your day, your mind naturally engages in constant commentary about your experiences. When you consciously shift this commentary to speak from remembrance of your fulfilled desire, you're essentially retraining your entire consciousness to operate from a new baseline. Now I want to explore how these two elements, the persistent feeling state and transformed inner speech, begin to work together to create a coherent field of consciousness that becomes increasingly magnetic to your desired experiences. There's a remarkable alchemy that occurs when your emotional state and verbal expression align completely with your assumed identity. If you've noticed how powerful your inner conversations are in creating your reality, write in the comments. My inner speech creates my world. When your feeling state and inner speech align perfectly, you experience what Florence Shinn called the holy reversal. Perhaps the most profound transformation in the entire manifestation journey. This reversal represents a complete inversion of conventional manifestation practices. Most approaches have you constantly focusing on what you want, affirming what you desire, visualizing what you hope to attain, all of which subtly reinforce the vibration of not yet having. But the holy reversal flips this paradigm entirely. You no longer speak about what you want. You speak as if you already have it. You no longer question, will it happen? But instead declare, it already has. This isn't pretending or fake it till you make it. It's aligning with a deeper level of reality, where time operates differently. Where your desire already exists in its completed state, waiting only for your recognition. The revelation that transforms lives is understanding that this reversal isn't a technique. It's a complete shift in consciousness. It's stepping outside the linear progression of time, where effects follow causes in predictable sequences, and entering a unified field where your assumed state immediately begins restructuring the quantum possibilities around you. This isn't magical thinking. It's aligned with emerging understandings of consciousness as the fundamental creative force in reality. What makes this holy reversal so powerful is that it changes your entire relationship with manifestation. You're no longer trying to make something happen through effort or force. You're simply recognizing what already is at the level of potential, allowing it to express through you, rather than struggling to create it from scratch. This shift from striving to allowing represents the most profound transformation in the manifestation journey. Behind the scenes of this process is a fascinating restructuring of your entire nervous system. When you consistently speak and feel from the state of already having, your body begins to produce the neurochemicals associated with fulfillment rather than wanting. Your stress hormones decrease. Your immune function improves. Your heart rhythms become more coherent. You're literally creating the biology of fulfillment before any external circumstances have changed. The mindset revolution occurs when you realize this isn't about convincing yourself of something untrue. It's about aligning with a deeper truth that transcends your current circumstances. Just as quantum physics has revealed that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, your desired reality already exists as potential until your consciousness collapses that potential into your experience through your assumed state. The impact of operating from this reversed perspective completely transforms your manifestation journey. Instead of the frustration and strain of constantly reaching for what isn't here yet, you experience the peace and ease of resting in what already is in consciousness. This explains why some people seem to create reality with such remarkable grace. They're not working harder at manifestation. They're operating from a completely different relationship with reality itself. As this holy reversal becomes your natural way of being, something extraordinary begins to occur. What Florence Shinn described as the sacred marriage. This isn't metaphorical language. It's a precise description of a profound union taking place within your consciousness. Your conscious mind, with its clear intentions and focused desires, merges with your subconscious mind, with its limitless creative power and direct connection to universal forces. The hidden truth behind all effective manifestation is that these two aspects of mind must work in perfect harmony for creation to occur effortlessly. Most approaches fail precisely because they create conflict between the conscious and subconscious rather than cooperation. Your conscious mind may affirm abundance, while your subconscious holds deep programming of lack. Your conscious mind may visualize perfect health, when your subconscious carries cellular memories of illness. But when you consistently practice the holy reversal, speaking, feeling, and acting from the state of your desire as already fulfilled, you begin to create coherence between these two aspects of consciousness. Florence Scovel Shinn described this using the ancient symbolism of masculine and feminine energies. Your conscious intention represents the masculine spark of creation, the directed, focused aspect that clearly defines what is desired. Your subconscious represents the feminine receptivity, the vast creative womb that receives the seed of intention and nurtures it into form. What makes this sacred marriage so transformative is that it resolves the inner conflict that sabotages most manifestation efforts. When your conscious and subconscious align completely around your desire, you no longer experience that frustrating push-pull where part of you moves toward your goal while another part subtly resists it. You become an integrated field of consciousness moving in a single direction. The journey behind the scenes of this union is remarkable. As your conscious and subconscious mind harmonize around your assumed state, your entire being becomes coherent at every level: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. This coherence creates a powerful resonance that naturally attracts circumstances, opportunities, and relationships that match your vibration. You become magnetic to your desires, not through effort, but through alignment. This sacred marriage explains why sleep is so crucial to effective manifestation. As you drift towards sleep, the barrier between conscious and subconscious naturally thins, creating the perfect opportunity for impression. The state you hold as you fall asleep, particularly the feeling state and inner conversation, directly imprints upon your subconscious without the usual resistance of the analytical mind. This is why masters throughout history have emphasized the moments before sleep as the most potent for creation. Now I want to explore how this sacred union begins to express itself in your waking experience. How you might notice subtle shifts in your perception, intuition, and external circumstances as this marriage bears fruit in your manifest reality. There's a fascinating alchemy that occurs as your inner harmony begins to reshape your outer world. If you've experienced moments when your conscious intention and subconscious belief were perfectly aligned, write in the comments, "I've felt the sacred marriage." As the sacred marriage between your conscious and subconscious mind deepens, you encounter perhaps the most revolutionary revelation in this entire journey. A complete transformation in your understanding of prayer and creation itself. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, and what mystics throughout history have quietly taught, is that you are not praying to a God outside of you, but performing the divine act within your own consciousness. This insight completely revolutionizes your relationship with manifestation. Most approaches have you beseeching a higher power, pleading for intervention, or attempting to align with external forces. But the hidden truth that changes everything is recognizing that the creative power of the universe isn't separate from you. It's expressing as you. Your consciousness isn't just a receiver of reality. It's the very medium through which reality takes form. The profound spiritual insight is that the moment you assume the state of your wish, fulfilled, truly feeling it as present and real, creation has already begun at the causal level. There's no gap between your assumption and divine action. They're not sequential events, but different aspects of the same unified process. The feeling is the prayer, and the prayer is already answered in the moment it's sincerely felt. Behind the scenes of this process is a fascinating quantum reality. At the subatomic level, particles exist in states of probability until observed, collapsing potential into form. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's aligned with our emerging scientific understanding of consciousness as a fundamental force in reality. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this isn't about using better techniques to influence reality. It's about recognizing your inseparable unity with the creative process itself. You're not a supplicant hoping for favorable response. You're the artist and the canvas, the speaker and the word, the dreamer and the dream. This recognition transforms manifestation from something you do to something you are. What makes this understanding so liberating is that it releases you from the strain of trying to make things happen. Creation isn't something you initiate through effort. It's something you allow through alignment with what already is in consciousness. This shift from striving to allowing represents the most profound transformation in the spiritual journey. The impact of this realization on your manifestation practice is revolutionary. You no longer approach prayer as a transaction. You speaking hoping some external power is listening and will eventually respond. Instead, prayer becomes communion, the recognition of your oneness with the creative principle itself. The very feeling of your wish fulfilled is God in action. the divine process expressing through your specific consciousness. This explains why masters throughout history have emphasized being overdoing. They understood that the state you embody is infinitely more powerful than any techniques you employ. Your assumed state is literally God expressing in the specific pattern of your desire. This isn't spiritual hyperbole. It's the mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. As this divine act within you completes itself, you fully assume the state of your wish fulfilled without contradiction or doubt. A natural and necessary phase begins. The sealing of the work. This sealing isn't something you force or strain to create. It happens naturally at your attention, gently withdraws from the outer world of current circumstances, and rests completely in the inner reality you've established. The revelation that transforms your practice is understanding that once you've truly felt the reality of your desire, constantly checking for evidence or wondering when it will manifest actually interrupts the natural process of creation. It's like planting a seed and then repeatedly digging it up to check if it's growing. The very act of checking reveals subtle doubt that interrupts the manifestation. Instead, Florence Scovel Shinn taught the profound art of sealing your creative work through complete withdrawal of attention from the outer world of appearances. This doesn't mean becoming passive or disengaged from life. It means maintaining such unwavering faith in the inner reality you've established that external circumstances no longer have the power to disturb your assumed state. The journey behind the scenes during the sealing process is remarkable. As your attention rests in the fulfilled state, the feeling of your wish fulfilled, it's naturally wrapped like a seed in fertile soil. It's protected from the harsh elements of doubt, impatience, or contradiction that might otherwise prevent its growth. This protective sealing creates the perfect environment for your desire to germinate and emerge in physical form. What makes this approach so powerful is that it aligns with how creation naturally works in every domain. A composer doesn't keep second guessing a completed symphony. An artist doesn't continuously revise a finished painting. There comes a point where the creative act is complete, and what follows is not more effort, but a sacred trust in the process itself. The decisions you make during this sealing period reveal much about your relationship with creation. Are you constantly checking for evidence? Recalibrating your practice based on external feedback, allowing circumstances to determine your state? Or are you resting in the absolute certainty of what you've established in consciousness, knowing that the outer must eventually conform to the inner? Now, I want to explore how this divine act within and its proper sealing begin to reshape not just your approach to manifestation, but your entire understanding of who you are in relation to the creative process. There's a profound identity shift that occurs when you fully embrace your role, not as a petitioner, but as a creative center through which the infinite expresses. If you recognize that the creative power has always been within you rather than outside, you write in the comments, "The divine act is within me." This identity shift leads to what may be the most beautiful aspect of the entire manifestation process. What Florence Scovel called the golden seal. Once you fully assume the feeling of your desire as present and real, once you've spoken from the state of its fulfillment, rather than its absence, a sacred protection naturally occurs. Imagine the entire imaginal act, the scene, the feeling, the identity you've claimed, being gently wrapped in golden silk, like a precious treasure being prepared for safekeeping. This golden seal isn't something you force or strain to create. It happens naturally as your consciousness recognizes the completeness of what you've done. The work isn't continuing, it's finished. And what follows isn't more effort, but a profound surrender. a deep trust in the process you've initiated. This golden-wrapped seed of your desire is then lowered into the depths of your being, into the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, where all creation begins. The revelation that transforms your manifestation journey is understanding that once this sealing occurs, the process works best when you allow it to unfold without interference. No one may touch it now, not even you. This isn't about becoming passive or disengaged. It's about having such profound trust in the creative process that you no longer feel compelled to check on it, test it, or verify its progress. Behind the scenes of this golden sealing is a fascinating psychological and energetic reality. Most manifestation fail precisely because of constant interference with the natural process. Imagine planting a seed and then digging up every day to see if it's growing. The very act of checking reveals subtle doubt. And doubt is the counterforce to creation. When you trust so completely that you no longer need to check, you create the perfect environment for manifestation to unfold according to its own divine timing and intelligence. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this isn't about letting go because you've given up. It's letting go because you're so certain of the outcome that continued effort would actually interfere with the natural unfolding. This is the paradox at the heart of masterful manifestation. The less you try to make it happen, the more effortlessly it occurs. What makes this golden seal so powerful is that it protects your creative act from the most common saboteurs of manifestation: doubt, fear, impatience, and the contradictory thoughts and feelings that often arise in the gap between seeding and harvest. Like a protective cocoon around a transforming butterfly, this golden seal maintains the perfect environment for your desire to gestate and emerge in its own perfect timing. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with the manifestation process. Instead of the anxiety and strain of constantly monitoring for evidence, you experience the peace and freedom of knowing it's already done in consciousness. This explains why masters throughout history have emphasized the art of letting go, not as resignation, but as the final sacred act of creation. As this golden seal takes effect within the depths of your being, a profound shift occurs in your internal dialogue. Instead of the tentative questioning thoughts that often accompany manifestation efforts, you begin to experience what Florence Shinn called certainty as command. From the quiet center of your being, you simply know without fanfare or dramatic declaration that what you've assumed must manifest because it has been assumed. The transformation in consciousness is subtle but profound. You're no longer hoping, wishing, or even affirming. You're simply resting in the absolute, knowing that the bridge between your inner assumption and its outer expression is being built. Not through your continued effort, but through the perfect operation of universal law. This certainty isn't expressed with the desperation of someone trying to convince themselves of something they don't truly believe. It's spoken with the quiet command of one who recognizes the fullness of a thing already done. When you repeat to yourself, "This must be born because it has been assumed," you're not creating an affirmation to make something happen. You're acknowledging what is already true at the causal level of reality. The journey behind the scenes during this phase reveals the profound architecture of creation itself. In the quantum field, possibilities collapse into probabilities, which then materialize as actualities. And the catalyst for this entire cascade is your assumed I state when you rest in certainty without wavering. You're literally organizing the quantum field around the pattern of your desire with a power that no amount of physical effort could ever achieve. What makes this certainty so transformative is that it creates a completely different relationship with time. Most manifestation approaches have you constantly projecting into the future, wondering when your desire will appear. But true certainty collapses that time gap entirely. You're no longer waiting for something to happen. You're resting in what already is in consciousness, knowing that its physical expression is simply the final phase of an already completed process. The decisions you make from this state of certainty have a completely different quality than those made from hope or desire. When you know something is already yours in consciousness, you naturally move toward choices that align with that reality without forcing or straining. Your actions become expressions of who you already are, rather than attempts to become something you're not. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens as this golden sealed certainty begins to influence not just your internal state, but the fabric of physical reality around you. There's a fascinating interplay between your unwavering inner knowing and the seemingly independent circumstances of your external world. If you've experienced moments of that certainty that transcends both doubt and effort, write in the comments, "I know with golden certainty." As your golden sealed certainty takes root within you, a fascinating phase of the manifestation process begins. What Florence Scovel Shinn described as the invisible path. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of manifestation, and the place where many sincere seekers abandon their practice. What you've planted in consciousness tonight is already in motion, already unfolding according to perfect divine timing. But, and this is crucial, the movement won't announce itself with fanfare or dramatic evidence. The revelation that transforms your entire relationship with manifestation is understanding that creation moves through the world like a quiet current beneath still water. It tiptoes through time, orchestrating circumstances, inspiring ideas, arranging coincidences, and aligning opportunities long before any tangible evidence appears in your physical experience. This invisible path isn't empty waiting. It's filled with profound activity that occurs beyond the perception of your physical senses. Behind the scenes of this process is a remarkable restructuring of the quantum field. The pattern you've established in consciousness begins reconfiguring probabilities, shifting the likelihood of certain events and diminishing others. People who might assist in your manifestation are subtly drawn into your orbit. Resources that will play a role begin moving toward you. Insights that will prove crucial start bubbling up from your subconscious. All of this happens silently, invisibly, while the surface of your life may appear unchanged. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize that this period of apparent inactivity isn't a failure of manifestation. It's an essential phase where the foundation is being laid for your desire's physical expression. Just as a seed must first develop roots beneath the soil before its shoot appears above ground, your manifestation is establishing its causal infrastructure before emerging into your tangible experience. What makes this understanding so liberating is that it releases you from the anxiety of constantly looking for evidence. Most manifestation approaches keep you perpetually focused on results, checking whether it's working yet. But masters of this art understand that such constant checking actually introduces doubt into the process. And doubt is the counterforce to creation. When you trust the invisible path, you allow manifestation to unfold according to its own intelligence, rather than your limited perception of how it should appear. The impact of this Tracian journey cannot be overstated. Instead of the frustration and strain of constantly scanning for evidence, you experience the peace and freedom of knowing the process is unfolding perfectly, even when nothing seems to be happening. This explains why patience is not merely a virtue in manifestation. It's a direct reflection of your faith in the invisible path. As this invisible movement continues beneath the surface of your awareness, something remarkable is occurring in the fabric of reality itself. Florence Shinn described this as building the bridge, the sacred architecture that connects your inner state with its outer expression. This bridge isn't constructed through your continued effort or striving. It's being built for you by the intelligence of the universe itself in response to your assumed state. The hidden truth that masters have always understood is that the bridge between your desire and its fulfillment isn't something you need to figure out. You don't need to engineer the how of your manifestation. The path is being cleared not in front of your eyes, where you can monitor and manage it, but beneath your feet as you walk in faith. This is why letting go of timelines and preconceived notions of how your desire should unfold is so crucial to effective manifestation. The journey behind the scenes, during this bridge-building phase, reveals the profound architecture of creation itself. When you've truly assumed the state of your desire as fulfilled, the universe doesn't just respond with a single action. It orchestrates a complex symphony of events, each playing its perfect part in bringing your desire into form. Some of these events may seem completely unrelated to your desire, yet they're essential pieces of the bridge being constructed. What makes this bridge building so miraculous is that it operates with an intelligence far beyond what your conscious mind could engineer. Your logical thinking is limited by what you currently know and can perceive. But the universe builds pathways using resources, connections, and possibilities you couldn't even imagine. This explains why the manifestation often unfolds in ways that surprise you. Not because the process failed, but because it worked through channels your limited perspective couldn't have anticipated. The decisions you make during this building phase reveal much about your relationship with creation. Are you trying to control the process, insisting it follow your timeline and appear through channels you've designated? Or are you walking in faith, allowing the bridge to be built in ways that may surprise and delight you? The first approach restricts manifestation to your limited understanding. The second allows it to unfold with infinite intelligence. This explains why surrender is not weakness in manifestation, but the highest form of power. When you surrender your need to control how, and when your desire manifests, you're not giving up on your desire. You're actually giving it the freedom to come to you through the most efficient and harmonious channels, many of which may be invisible to your current perception. Now, I want to explore what happens you continue walking this invisible path as the bridge between your inner state and outer reality nears completion. There's a fascinating moment in the manifestation journey when the first tangible evidence begins to appear, often in ways so subtle or unexpected that those without faith might miss them entirely. If you've noticed these invisible workings, arranging circumstances in your life, write in the comments. I trust the invisible path. As the bridge between your inner and outer worlds begins to form, you encounter what may be the most profound revelation of this entire journey, a complete transformation in your understanding of sleep itself. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered, and what mystics throughout history have quietly taught, is that you are not simply falling asleep each night. You are entering the sacred temple where God dreams reality into form. This insight completely revolutionizes your relationship with those 7 to 8 hours that most people dismiss as mere unconsciousness. Sleep isn't an interruption of your creative work. It's the culmination, the sacred chamber where your most powerful manifestation occurs. When you enter sleep, carrying the assumption of your fulfilled desire, you're not just resting. You're actively participating in divine creation at its most potent level. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that when you dream from assumption, from the complete embodiment of your desire as already fulfilled, you dream as God. This isn't spiritual hyperbole or metaphorical language. It's a precise description of what occurs when your consciousness carrying the seed of your assumed state merges with the infinite, creative power of your subconscious mind during sleep. Behind the scenes of this divine dreaming is a fascinating neurobiological reality. During sleep, your brain cycles through different frequencies from beta to alpha to theta to delta. These deeper states, particularly theta and delta, provide direct access to the subconscious and superconscious realms where creation begins. The critical faculty that normally filters your conscious impressions relaxes, allowing your assumed state to impress directly upon the creative center without resistance or contradiction. The mindset revelation comes when you realize that your night isn't empty unconsciousness. It's filled with profound creative activity. The state you carry into sleep becomes the template from which your subconscious works throughout the night, reorganizing energy patterns and probability fields to align with your assumed identity. This explains why so many breakthrough ideas, solutions, and synchronicities seem to appear overnight, because that's precisely when the most powerful creation occurs. What makes this understanding so transformative is that it shifts your entire relationship with sleep. Instead of seeing it as mere physical restoration, you recognize it as spiritual creation in its purest form. The hours before sleep become sacred, a time to carefully curate your consciousness, to deliberately assume the state of your fulfilled desire, to speak and feel from the identity you wish to express. Your nighttime routine becomes as important to manifestation as any daytime practice. The impact of this divine dreaming extends far beyond the specific desire you're manifesting. It literally restructures your entire being at the causal level. Each night spent dreaming from your assumed state reinforces neural pathways associated with your new identity while allowing old patterns to fade. You're literally rewiring your brain through this sacred sleep practice. As this divine dreaming continues night after night, something remarkable begins to occur. What Florence Scovel, Shinn called the subconscious weaver begins its work. Your dreams themselves, whether you consciously remember them or not, become the loom on which your subconscious weaves your inner identity into the outer world. This isn't metaphorical. It's a precise description of how consciousness creates reality. The revelation that transforms your manifestation practice is understanding that your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between waking and dreaming states. The images, feelings, and assumptions you carry in either state are equally powerful in shaping your reality. In fact, the dream state may be even more potent because it's free from the resistance of your analytical mind and the contradictory evidence of your current circumstances. Throughout the night, as you cycle through different stages of sleep, your subconscious is actively processing the patterns you've established in consciousness. It's reconciling your new assumed state with existing beliefs, resolving contradictions, and creating a coherent field that will ultimately express as your physical reality. This weaving isn't something you need to consciously direct. It happens naturally when you consistently enter sleep, carrying the frequency of the fulfilled one. The journey behind the scenes of this weaving process is remarkable. Your subconscious isn't just passively receiving your assumed state. It's actively orchestrating the complex symphony of your manifestation. It's sending signals to your autonomic nervous system, influencing hormone production, regulating emotional responses, and even affecting how you'll perceive events when you awaken. All of this happens effortlessly while you sleep, requiring nothing from you but the faithful assumption of your desire as already fulfilled. This explains why consistency in your practice is so crucial. Each night spent in their fulfilled desire strengthens the pattern your subconscious is weaving. The tapestry becomes more defined, more vivid, more substantial. With each passing night, this is why masters of manifestation emphasize the power of persistence. Not because manifestation requires effort, but because consistent assumption allows your subconscious weaver to create a complete and coherent pattern. The decisions you make before sleep take on new significance when you understand this process. The content you consume, the conversations you engage in, the thoughts you entertain, all influence the state you carry into sleep, and therefore the pattern your subconscious weaves throughout the night. Masters of manifestation treat the hour before sleep as sacred, carefully curating their environment and consciousness to maintain alignment with their desired state. Now I want to explore how this subconscious weaving begins to manifest in your waking experience. How the sacred work done during sleep begins to restructure your perceptions, inspirations, and circumstances during your day. There's a fascinating continuity that develops between your sleep state and your waking reality once you understand the true nature of manifestation. If you've noticed how your dreams and sleep state influence your waking reality, write in the comments, "I am the divine dreamer." As this divine dreaming and subconscious weaving continue, you encounter what may be most revolutionary principle in the entire manifestation process. What Florence Shinn called the law of reversibility. This profound insight completely transforms your understanding of causality itself and explains why feeling your desire as already fulfilled is so fundamentally powerful. Most people operate from the assumption that external experiences cause internal states. Love arrives, then joy arises, achievement occurs, then confidence follows, wealth appears, then security emerges. This seems like the natural order of things, outer circumstances creating inner responses. But the law of reversibility reveals breathtaking truth that turns this entire paradigm on its head. If joy arises when love arrives, then joy must summon love. If confidence follows achievement, then confidence must produce achievement. If security emerges from wealth, then security must generate wealth. This isn't wishful thinking or metaphysical speculation. It's sacred causality, the recognition that the creative process works in both directions, and the inner state has causal priority over the outer expression. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that emotions aren't just reactions to experiences. They're the very frequency that attracts those experiences into your life. When you generate the feeling of already having what you desire, you're not pretending or practicing positive thinking. You're literally activating the causal mechanism that must, by universal law, bring that experience into form. Behind the scenes of this process is a fascinating quantum reality. At the subatomic level, particles respond to the observer's consciousness, what physicists call the observer effect. Your emotional state isn't just a subjective experience. It's a vibrational field that literally reorganizes energy and probability. This isn't New Age philosophy. It's aligned with our emerging scientific understanding of consciousness as a fundamental force in reality. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this isn't about using emotions to influence reality. It's about recognizing that emotions are causal. The feeling of having already received your desire isn't a technique to get something. It's the actual creative force that brings it into being. This shift from seeing emotions as effects to recognizing them as causes represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. What makes this understanding so liberating is that it gives you access to a level of creative, power you've always possessed, but rarely used consciously. You no longer need to wait for external circumstances to change in order to feel differently. You can generate the feeling, now knowing that the circumstance must follow by universal law. The impact of the law of reversibility on your manifestation practice is revolutionary. Instead of the frustration and strain of trying to change external conditions, you experience the peace and power of changing your internal state first. This explains why masters of manifestation emphasize feeling over technique, being over doing. They understand that the state you embody is literally calling forth its matching reality. This reversal of causality reaches its pinnacle potency during sleep. As you drift toward unconsciousness, something remarkable happens. You bypass the resistance of reason and circumstance. Your analytical mind, which might argue with your assumed state based on current evidence, naturally relaxes its grip. Your awareness of present limitations, which might contradict your desired state, naturally fades from focus. In this sacred threshold between waking and sleeping, you enter a state of consciousness that Florence Shinn recognized as profoundly creative. You are free to feel as God feels, without reference to current circumstances, without justification from past experiences, without evidence from the physical world. This isn't pretending or self-deception. It's accessing a level of consciousness where creation begins, where feeling literally becomes command. The journey behind the scenes during this twilight state reveals the architecture of creation itself. As your analytical mind surrenders and your awareness of current limitations fades, your assumed feeling state directly impresses upon the subconscious without resistance or contradiction. What you feel in these precious moments becomes the template from which your subconscious creates throughout the night. This explains why the feelings you hold as you fall asleep are exponentially more powerful than those you generate during waking consciousness. During the day, your feelings often meet resistance from your rational mind and sensory evidence. But as you drift towards sleep, this resistance naturally dissolves, allowing your feeling state to impress upon the subconscious with remarkable clarity and power. The revelation that transforms your practice is understanding that this isn't about forcing yourself to feel something you don't truly believe. It's about recognizing that, beneath the layers of doubt and limitation, lies a deeper level of your being that already knows the truth of your fulfillment. You're not creating this feeling from nothing. You're accessing what already exists at the level of potential, at the quantum level of possibility. The decisions you make in the hour before sleep take on profound significance when you understand this process. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the thoughts you entertain, all influence the feeling state you'll carry into sleep, and therefore the command you'll give the creative forces of the universe. This is why masters treat the period before sleep as sacred, carefully cultivating the precise feeling they wish to impress upon the subconscious. Now I want to go even deeper into what happens as this feeling command begins to reshape not just your inner landscape, but the very substance of your outer reality. There's a fascinating alchemy that occurs as your subconscious mind, having received the clear impression of your feeling state during sleep, begins orchestrating circumstances to bring that feeling into tangible expression. If you've experienced the power of entering sleep in a specific feeling state and noticed reality reorganizing itself to match that feeling, write in the comments, "I command through feeling." As this feeling command reshapes your reality, you begin to experience something far more profound than mere manifestation. What Florence Scovel, Shinn called awareness of the promise, beyond the specific desire taking form in your life. a deeper revelation begins to dawn within your consciousness. The promise being fulfilled isn't just about acquiring things or circumstances. It's about remembering who you truly are at the core of your being. This promise, whispered through the ages by mystics and masters, is simply this: when you return to I Am, when you step fully into that sovereign creative center of your consciousness, you shall know yourself as God. This isn't spiritual arrogance or metaphysical hyperbole. It's the recognition that the creative power you've been accessing through these practices isn't something outside you that you've managed to influence. It's your very essence expressing through the specific pattern of your desire. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that manifestation was never meant to be merely a technique for getting things. It's a pathway of remembrance, a sacred journey back to your original nature as a creative center of the universe. Each time you successfully assume the feeling of your desire as already fulfilled, you're not just changing your circumstances, you're peeling away layers of limitation that have obscured your true identity. Behind the scenes of this awakening is a profound shift in consciousness that transcends the specific manifestation you've been working toward. The veil that seemed to separate you from the creative forces of the universe begins to dissolve, revealing that there was never any separation at all. You've always been one with the creative principle itself, expressing through your unique consciousness. This revelation doesn't make you special. It simply acknowledges what has always been true. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about remembering what you've always been beneath the accumulated layers of limitation and false identity. You're not ascending to some rarefied spiritual status. You're returning to your natural state, your original condition before the world told you who you were and what was possible for you. What makes this awareness so transformative is that it completely restructures your relationship with manifestation itself. You're no longer approaching it as a transaction. You doing something to get something. You recognize it as communion, the creative principle expressing through you as you. This shift from doing to being represents the most profound transformation in the spiritual journey. The impact of this awareness on your manifestation practice is revolutionary. Your desires themselves begin to shift, becoming less about acquiring things to fill a perceived lack and more about expressing the fullness that you already are. This doesn't mean you stop desiring experiences or circumstances. It means those desires flow from wholeness rather than emptiness, from creative expression rather than desperate need. As this awareness deepens, you discover what Florence Shinn recognized as the true reward of manifestation. You've done far more than claim your specific desire. You've remembered your origin. You've reconnected with the eternal creative principle that is your true nature. And this realization, not the house or car or money or relationship, is the actual treasure you've been seeking all along. The revelation that transforms your entire approach is understanding that the specific manifestations were never the point. They were breadcrumbs leading you home to yourself, catalysts for the remembrance of who you truly are. The joy of receiving your desire isn't primarily about having the thing itself. It's about experiencing the freedom, power, and wholeness that come from aligning with your true nature as a creative force. The journey behind the scenes of this realization reveals the profound architecture of consciousness itself. As you consistently practice, assuming the feeling of your desires as fulfilled, something remarkable happens to your identity. The false self constructed from limitation, lack, and separation gradually dissolves, allowing your authentic self to emerge naturally. This isn't something you force or strain to create. It's what remains when the obstacles to its expression are removed. This explains why genuine masters of manifestation often seem paradoxically unattached to the things they manifest. They recognize that the true gift isn't the object or circumstance itself. It's the state of consciousness from which manifestation naturally flows. They don't need to chase experiences because they're living from the state that effortlessly creates those experiences. The decisions you make from this awareness have a completely different quality than those made from conventional manifestation consciousness. You're no longer trying to accumulate things to feel complete or worthy. You're simply expressing the fullness of who you are through the unique pattern of your desires and preferences. Your manifestations become celebrations of your creative nature, rather than attempts to fix some perceived brokenness or lack. Now I want to explore how this profound spiritual awareness begins to reshape not just your approach to manifestation, but your entire experience of life itself. There's a remarkable transformation that occurs when you recognize that you've been seeking in the outer world what can only be found within your own consciousness. If you've glimpsed moments of this deeper awareness beyond specific manifestations, write in the comments, "I remember who I am." As this awareness of your true nature deepens, you arrive at a profound moment in your spiritual journey. What Florence Shinn called the declaration of completion. In the quiet sanctuary of your consciousness, without fanfare or external validation, you simply acknowledge it is finished. This isn't a statement of resignation or an indication that there's nothing left to experience in your manifestation journey. It's the recognition that there's nothing left to prove to yourself or anyone else. This declaration marks the quantum leap from believing to knowing. Most spiritual seekers spend years, even decades, trying to believe in principles that feel contrary to their current experience. They affirm, visualize, and practice with the hope that someday their efforts will bear fruit. But the revelation that transforms effort is recognizing that true power doesn't come from believing harder. It comes from shifting into knowing. And this knowing isn't intellectual understanding. It's embodied recognition that resonates through every cell of your being. The hidden truth behind this declaration is that it doesn't come at the end of your manifestation journey. It's actually the beginning of true creation. When you say it is finished from this consciousness, you're not referring to the physical manifestation, which may still be invisible to your senses. You're acknowledging that the causal work, the assumption of the state, is complete. And in the realm of causes, which always precedes effects, your desire is already fulfilled. Behind the scenes of this declaration is a fascinating shift in your entire relationship with reality. You're no longer straining to make something happen in the future. You're resting in the recognition of what already is in consciousness. This shift from effort to acknowledgement represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. You're no longer working toward an outcome. You're dwelling in its completion. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this declaration isn't something you say to convince yourself. It's something you recognize as already true at the causal level of reality. You're not making a positive affirmation to create a future event. You're acknowledging what is already done in consciousness, knowing that its physical expression is simply the final phase of an already completed process. What makes this declaration so powerful is that it completely resolves the internal conflict that sabotages most manifestation efforts. The part of you that was trying to manifest and the part that was doubting merge into a unified field of consciousness that simply knows. This integration of your being creates a coherent signal that the universe must reflect back to you without distortion or delay. As this declaration settles into your being, something remarkable begins to occur. What Florence Shinn described as the divine light. You begin to experience your consciousness, not as something contained within your physical form, but as a radiant field that emanates from your center. The chamber of your being fills with golden light, not appearing around you as if from an external source, but radiating from within as the natural expression of who you truly are. The revelation that transforms your entire understanding is recognizing that this light isn't emotion or sensation in the conventional sense. It's awareness itself, the pure consciousness that is your divine inheritance. This light doesn't come and go like emotions. It's what remains when all the temporary states have settled. It's not something you create through effort. It's what you already are beneath the accumulated layers of limiting beliefs and false identities. The journey behind the scenes reveals the profound architecture of consciousness itself. This golden light isn't metaphorical. It's a tangible shift in your energy field that can be felt as clearly as physical sensation. As the false self constructed from limitation and separation gradually dissolves, your authentic essence naturally emerges not as something new, but as what has always been there, beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. This explains why genuine masters of manifestation often describe experiences of light, expansion, or radiance that transcend the specific desires they've manifested. They've recognized that the true gift isn't the object or circumstance itself. It's the awakening to the divine light that is their essential nature. The light isn't a reward for successful manifestation. It's what was revealed through the process of aligning with their true identity. The impact of this awareness on your manifestation journey is revolutionary. You no longer approach manifestation as something you do to get something you lack. You recognize it as the natural expression of the divine light that you are. Your desires flow from fullness rather than emptiness, from creative expression rather than desperate need. And because they originate from this light, rather than from the shadow of perceived lack, they manifest with remarkable ease and grace. The decisions you make from this illuminated consciousness have a completely different quality than those made from conventional awareness. You're no longer driven by fear, lack, or the need to prove your worth. You naturally move toward choices that express the fullness of your being. Not because you should, but because anything else would feel like a contradiction of who you know yourself to be. Now I want to explore how this divine light begins to reshape not just your inner landscape, but your entire experience of moving through the world. There's a fascinating transformation that occurs when you recognize that you're not just perceiving reality. You're radiating the very light that illuminates it from within. If you've experienced moments of this inner golden light illuminating your being, write in the comments, "I radiate divine light." As your consciousness continues to unfold through this sacred process, you encounter what may be the most counterintuitive yet transformative aspect of the entire manifestation journey. What Florence Shinn called the deepest surrender. Most people misunderstand surrender completely, associating it with defeat, resignation, or giving up on their desires. But the surrender we're exploring here is something entirely different. It's not the surrender of the desperate, but of the divine. This profound surrender doesn't come from exhaustion after struggling to make something happen. It emerges naturally from the recognition that nothing needs to be earned when you already are. It's the peaceful releasing of all striving, not because you've given up on your desire, but because you're so certain of its fulfillment at the causal level that continued effort would actually interfere with its natural expression. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that this surrender isn't weakness. It's actually the highest form of power. When you truly know that your desire is already fulfilled in consciousness, you naturally release the anxious energy of trying to make it happen. This isn't indifference toward your manifestation. It's such complete trust in the process that you can rest in absolute peace while it unfolds according to divine timing. Behind the scenes of this surrender is a fascinating shift in your entire relationship with creation. Most manifestation approaches keep you perpetually striving, constantly checking for evidence, always reaching for something that seems just beyond your grasp. But masters of this art understand that such continuous effort actually introduces tension and resistance into the process. When you surrender from divine knowing, you remove the final obstacle to your manifestation, your own interference with the natural unfolding. The mindset breakthroughs when you realize this surrender isn't something you do. It's something that happens naturally as your consciousness shifts from seeking to knowing. You don't have to force yourself to let go or practice techniques of detachment. When you truly embody the state of already having, surrender occurs effortlessly because there's nothing left to chase or strain toward. What makes this surrender so powerful is that it creates a completely different energy field around your manifestation. The vibration of desperate seeking, even seeking with positive affirmations and visualizations, carries a subtle frequency of absence that can actually push your desire away. But the vibration of divine surrender carries the frequency of completion that naturally magnetizes your desire toward you. As this deep surrender permeates your being, you naturally enter what Florence Scovel Shinn recognized as the Sabbath of creation, a state of consciousness where rest isn't merely physical relaxation, but spiritual completion. You lie in the vibration of fullness, not as a temporary practice or technique, but as your natural posture, your default way of being. This isn't something you do for 20 minutes each day, hoping to manifest something. It's who you are, regardless of external circumstances. The revelation that transforms your entire approach is understanding that this Sabbath rest isn't passive waiting for something that hasn't yet appeared. It's active recognition of what already is in consciousness. You're stepping back from continuous effort, not because the work is unfinished and you need a break, but because the work is done at the causal level, and what follows is natural unfoldment. The journey behind the scenes of this Sabbath consciousness reveals the profound architecture of creation itself. Throughout spiritual traditions, the concept of the seventh day, the day of rest, isn't about God needing to recover from the exertion of creating the world. It's the recognition that creation is complete at the level of causes before it fully appears in form. Your consciousness, when aligned with this principle, follows the same pattern. Rest comes not after manifestation, but before it as recognition of its completion in the invisible realm. This explains why genuine masters of manifestation often exhibit remarkable peace and patience while awaiting the physical expression of their desires. They're not forcing themselves to be patient through willpower or spiritual discipline. They're naturally patient because they're resting in the absolute knowing that what they've established in consciousness must appear in form, according to divine timing. The waiting period isn't empty anticipation. It's filled with the quiet joy of knowing. The impact of this understanding on your manifestation practice is revolutionary. Instead of the anxious energy of constantly checking for evidence or wondering when your desire will manifest, you experience the peaceful certainty of knowing it's already done in consciousness. This shift from seeking to resting represents the most profound transformation in your spiritual journey. The decisions you make from this Sabbath consciousness have a completely different quality than those made from conventional awareness. You're no longer taking actions to make something happen or to speed up the manifestation process. Your actions flow naturally as expressions of who you already know yourself to be, aligned with the reality you've already established in consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into what happens as this Sabbath consciousness begins to permeate not just your manifestation practice, but your entire approach to life. There's a remarkable transformation that occurs when you recognize that rest isn't something you do after achievement. It's the very foundation from which genuine creation emerges. If you've experienced moments of this profound rest that comes not from exhaustion, but from completion, write in the comments, "I rest in the Sabbath." As this Sabbath consciousness deepens, you approach what may be the most sacred threshold of the entire manifestation journey. What Florence Shinn called the Great Silence. Most people misunderstand silence completely, thinking of it merely as the absence of sound or thought. But the silence we're exploring here is something infinitely more profound. Not emptiness, but fullness beyond expression. It's the eternal hush of knowing that transcends all mental concepts and verbal declarations. This silence isn't something you create through effort or technique. It arises naturally as the final flowering of your manifestation journey, when all the striving, affirming, and even the more conscious assuming dissolves into pure awareness. It's the recognition that beneath all your desires, beneath all your identity statements, beneath even your highest spiritual understanding, there exists a pristine awareness that simply knows without needing to declare. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that this silence isn't merely a state you enter occasionally during meditation or manifestation practice. It's the actual source from which all creation springs. Before the word, before the thought, before the feeling, there exists this pregnant void that is not empty but infinitely full. It contains all possibilities without limitation or definition. And when you access this silence, you're touching the very womb of creation itself. Behind the scenes of this great silence is a fascinating shift in brain activity that transcends normal waking consciousness. Your brain waves naturally shift from beta to alpha to theta, sometimes even touching delta while remaining conscious. This isn't sleep or unconsciousness. It's heightened awareness that paradoxically appears as stillness. Neuroscientists have observed that in this state, the usual boundaries between different regions of the brain begin to dissolve, creating a more integrated field of consciousness from which profound creativity and insight naturally emerge. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize this. Silence isn't something you achieve through more spiritual practice or manifestation techniques. It's what remains when all techniques fall away. When all seeking subsides, when even the desire for manifestation is surrendered to something more fundamental, pure being itself. This shift from doing to being represents the most profound transformation in the spiritual journey. What makes this silence so powerful that it resolves all the contradictions and conflicts that sabotage most manifestation efforts? In ordinary consciousness, part of you may affirm abundance while another part doubts. Part of you may visualize health while another part fears illness. But in this great silence, these divisions dissolve into wholeness. There's no affirmation and no denial. Only the undivided knowing that transcends both. As this silence permeates your being, you naturally discover what Florence Scovel recognized as the ultimate revelation of the manifestation journey. You are not your identity, not your desire, not even the fulfillment of that desire. You are the I, source of all three. This isn't abstract philosophy or metaphysical speculation. It's a direct recognition that transforms your entire relationship with reality itself. The revelation that changes everything is realizing that even the highest spiritual identity you've claimed, even the I am statements you've used to create your reality, are still just garments worn by the nameless awareness that you truly are. When you let go of every image, every phrase, every concept you've used to define yourself, what remains isn't emptiness or loss of self. What remains is the infinite creative consciousness that has been wearing these identities all along. The journey behind the scenes of this recognition reveals the most profound architecture of consciousness itself. Every desire you've ever had, every manifestation you've ever created, every identity you've ever assumed, all of these have been temporary expressions of the boundless awareness that is your true nature. They weren't wrong or false. They were simply limited expressions of the unlimited. And in recognizing this, you're free to continue creating, but from a completely different relationship with the creative process. This explains why the greatest masters of manifestation often seem paradoxically detached from their own remarkable creations. They understand that they're not defined by what they create. They are the creator itself expressing through infinite forms, but never contained by any of them. Their power doesn't come from perfecting techniques or accumulating spiritual knowledge. It comes from this direct recognition of who they truly are beyond all identities and achievements. The impact of this understanding on your manifestation journey is revolutionary. Instead of the strain of trying to become something you're not, you experience the freedom of expressing what you already are through the unique pattern of your desires and preferences. Creation becomes play rather than work, expression rather than acquisition. And because it flows from this boundless source, rather than from the limited self, it manifests with remarkable ease and grace. The decisions you make from this recognition have a completely different quality than those made from conventional identity. You're no longer driven by the need to validate or defend an image of yourself. Your choices flow naturally as expressions of the boundless creativity that you are aligned with the highest good of all, because you recognize that same source in everyone and everything around you. Now I want to explore how this recognition of your true nature, beyond all identities, begins to transform not just your manifestation practice, but your entire experience of moving through the world. There's a remarkable shift that occurs when you no longer need reality to validate who you think you are, because you've touched something more fundamental than any identity could ever capture. If you've experienced moments of this profound recognition beyond all concepts and identities, write in the comments, I am the nameless source. As this recognition of your true nature deepens, you begin to experience a profound transformation in something as ordinary as your nightly sleep. What Florence Shinn revealed and what mystics throughout history have quietly taught is that sleep itself becomes something entirely different when approached from this awakened consciousness. This is not ordinary sleep, the unconscious rest of the weary body. This is holy sleep, the sacred communion of your individualized consciousness with the infinite source from which it emerged. When you enter sleep from the state of your wish fulfilled, from the embodied knowing of your desire as already complete, you're engaging in what might be the most powerful spiritual practice available to human consciousness. This is the sleep of the fulfilled one, the sleep of God remembering self. In this holy rest, you're not escaping from reality. You're returning to the creative center, where reality itself is shaped and formed. The hidden truth that transforms lives is understanding that during this sacred sleep, all things are truly made new. This isn't poetic language or spiritual metaphor. It's a precise description. of the alchemical process occurring within your consciousness as you cycle through different brain states during sleep. Your neural networks are literally reorganizing themselves around your assumed state. Old patterns associated with limitation and lack begin to dissolve while new pathways aligned with your fulfilled desire strengthen and stabilize. Behind the scenes of this holy sleep is a fascinating neurobiological reality that science is only beginning to comprehend. During specific sleep cycles, particularly during deep REM states, your brain experiences a remarkable phenomenon called neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. What makes this process so powerful for manifestation is that your subconscious mind, having received the clear impression of your assumed state before sleep, uses this neuroplasticity to literally rewire your brain to support your new reality. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize sleep isn't just physical restoration. It's consciousness transformation at the most fundamental level. What determines the quality of this transformation isn't random or accidental. It's precisely shaped by the state you carry into sleep. When you enter sleep from the consciousness of your fulfilled desire, you're providing the exact template from which this reorganization occurs. What makes this holy sleep so powerful is that it bypasses the resistance of your analytical mind and the contradictory evidence of your current circumstances. During waking hours, these forces often interfere with your assumed state, creating internal conflict that slows manifestation. But during sleep, particularly in those twilight moments between waking and dreaming, this resistance naturally dissolves, allowing your assumed state to impress upon the subconscious with remarkable clarity and power. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with sleep. Instead of seeing those hours as merely time spent unconscious, you recognize them as the most potent creative period in your entire day. The moments before sleep become sacred, a time to carefully cultivate the precise state you wish to carry into this transformative process. Your nighttime routine becomes as important to manifestation as any daytime practice. As you prepare for this final descent into holy sleep, something remarkable begins to occur. Florence Scovel Shinn described it as entering the sacred unknown, that mysterious threshold between conscious awareness and the infinite creative potential that lies beyond. As you cross this threshold, it may seem as though a veil thickens between you and your ordinary thinking mind. The familiar landmarks of your daily consciousness begin to fade, and the bridge between your current identity and the unknown territory ahead seems to disappear. The revelation that transforms your entire approach is understanding that this apparent dissolution isn't something to fear or resist. You're not departing from yourself. You're departing from the illusions that have clouded your true nature. The veil that thickens isn't obscuring reality. It's actually filtering out the limitations and false identities that have prevented you from experiencing reality in its fullness. The journey behind the scenes of this sacred descent reveals the profound architecture of consciousness itself. What appears as a loss of awareness from the perspective of your waking self is actually an expansion of awareness beyond the boundaries of your limited identity. You're not becoming less conscious. You're becoming more moving beyond the artificial constraints of your conditioned thinking into the boundless field of pure potential. This explains why history have placed such emphasis on the moments before sleep. They recognize that this threshold state, this sacred unknown, provides direct access to the creative forces of the universe in a way that's rarely available during normal waking consciousness. When you enter this state from the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you're essentially programming the deepest levels of your being with the exact pattern you wish to express in your manifest reality. The decisions you make in the hour before sleep take on profound significance when you understand this process. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the thoughts you entertain, all influence the state you'll carry into this sacred unknown. This is why masters treat the period before sleep as precious, carefully cultivating the precise feeling state they wish to impress upon the subconscious. Now I want to go even deeper into what happens as you cross this threshold into holy sleep. As your consciousness merges with the infinite creative potential that lies beyond the veil of ordinary awareness, there's a remarkable alchemy that occurs as your individual awareness, carrying the seed of your assumed state, dissolves into the boundless field of pure possibility. If you've experienced moments where sleep had become a sacred journey rather than mere unconsciousness, write in the comments, "My sleep transforms a worlds." As your consciousness merges with the infinite creative potential beyond the veil, you approach the final sacred moment before complete surrender to sleep. In this precious threshold, Florence Scovel Shinn taught that your very last thought carries extraordinary creative power. Unlike the scattered thoughts that flow through your mind throughout the day, this final impression before sleep bypasses all resistance and sinks directly into the fertile soil of your subconscious. What makes this moment so powerful is its simplicity. You don't need elaborate visualizations or complex affirmations. All that's required is the quiet, peaceful acknowledgement. I am fulfilled, I am safe, I am resting in what already is. This isn't a desperate plea or an attempt to convince yourself of something untrue. It's a gentle recognition of the deeper truth that transcends your current circumstances. The truth that at the level of cause, your desire is already complete. The revelation that transforms lives is understanding that this final thought isn't creating something new. It's acknowledging what already exists in consciousness. When you declare, "I am fulfilled," you're not trying to make fulfillment happen in the future. You're recognizing the fulfillment that already exists as potential, as pattern, as possibility waiting to be expressed. This shift from creating to recognizing represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. Behind the scenes of this final thought is a fascinating shift in brain activity that primes your entire being for transformation. As you drift towards sleep, carrying this consciousness of fulfillment, your brain waves naturally shift from beta to alpha to theta. In these deeper states, the analytical mind that might argue with your assumption, based on current evidence, naturally relaxes its grip, allowing your final thought to impress upon the subconscious without resistance or contradiction. What's particularly beautiful about this final thought is its peaceful acceptance of the gap between inner and outer reality. You're not denying that the world may appear unchanged tomorrow morning. You're simply acknowledging the hidden truth that beneath the surface, beyond what the physical senses can perceive, everything has already shifted. The blueprint has been altered. The pattern has been established, and the outer must eventually conform to this inner reality by universal law. The mindset breakthrough, when you realize this acceptance, isn't resignation to current circumstances. It's faith in the invisible process already in motion. You're not giving up on your desire. You're trusting so completely in its fulfillment that you can rest in perfect peace while it unfolds according to divine timing. This trust isn't blind hope. It's understanding the mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. As this final thought settles into the depths of your being, you discover what Florence Scovel Shinn recognized as perhaps the most profound revelation of the manifestation journey. You are not falling asleep in the conventional sense at all. You are crossing the threshold into the inner temple, the sacred sanctuary where all creation begins. This isn't mere unconsciousness. It's heightened consciousness functioning at a level beyond ordinary waking awareness. The hidden truth that masters have always known is that this inner temple isn't a metaphorical concept or spiritual abstraction. It's a precise description of the creative center of consciousness itself, the place where thought forms materialize before expressing in the physical world. When you enter this temple carrying the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you're essentially programming the very source of creation with the exact pattern you wish to experience. The journey behind the scenes of this temple crossing reveals the architecture of creation itself. This stillness you're entering isn't passive or empty. It's pregnant with infinite possibility. It's not the absence of action, but the presence of pure potential before it takes specific form. This is why masters throughout history have emphasized that true creation doesn't begin with doing, but with being, with establishing the state from which all aligned action naturally flows. What makes this temple crossing so powerful is that it bypasses the limitations of your conscious mind with its doubts, fears, and attachment to current circumstances. Your subconscious mind, which is directly connected to universal creative forces, receives the impression of your assumed state without the filtering or distortion that often occurs during waking consciousness. This direct impression creates a clear template from which manifestation can unfold without interference. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with sleep. Instead of seeing those hours as merely time spent unconscious, you recognize them as your daily journey into the creative center of the universe. The moments before sleep become sacred, a time to carefully cultivate the precise state you wish to impress upon this inner temple. Your nighttime routine becomes as important to manifestation as any daytime practice. The transformation occurring within this temple doesn't happen all at once like a sudden miracle or dramatic event. It unfolds organically, restructuring your consciousness from the inside out. Just as a seed planted in soil doesn't immediately produce a visible sprout, but first establishes roots beneath the surface, your manifested desire begins, taking form in ways invisible to your physical senses long before its outer expression appears. Now I want to explore how this inner temple work begins to reshape not just your specific manifestation, but your entire experience of moving through the world. There's a remarkable shift that occurs when you recognize that each night's sleep isn't merely rest for the body, but communion with the creative forces that literally birth worlds into existence. If you've begun to recognize your sleep as a sacred journey into the inner temple of creation, write in the comments, "I enter the temple each night." As this inner temple work continues to reshape your reality, you encounter what Florence Scovel Shinn described as the divine reversal of sleep. Perhaps the most profound paradox in the entire manifestation process. Most people perceive sleep as a dimming of consciousness, a fading of awareness, a weakening of perception. But the hidden truth that transforms lives is recognizing that in sleep, the exact opposite occurs. As the outer world dims, the inner world glows brighter. While the body appears to weaken, the spirit actually strengthens. While you're thought to be unconscious by those around you, you're becoming most conscious on a level that transcends ordinary waking awareness. This divine reversal completely transforms your understanding of sleep itself. What appears from the outside as withdrawal or diminishment is actually expansion and enhancement of your true creative power. This isn't spiritual hyperbole or metaphorical language. It's a precise description of what occurs as your awareness shifts from external perception to internal creation. From the limited surface mind to the boundless depths of consciousness itself. Behind the scenes of this reversal is a fascinating neurobiological reality that science is only beginning to comprehend. During specific sleep phases, particularly during deep REM states, parts of your brain actually become more active, not less. The default mode network associated with creativity, self-reflection, and integration of experience shows heightened activity. Meanwhile, the analytical networks that constantly evaluate, judge, and filter your experience naturally quiet down, allowing direct access to deeper levels of consciousness normally obscured during waking hours. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize sleep isn't a lesser state of consciousness. It's actually a higher, more integrated state that transcends the limitations of your waking awareness. You're not becoming unconscious. You're becoming superconscious, functioning at a level beyond ordinary perception. This shift from seeing sleep as passive unconsciousness to recognizing it as active superconsciousness represents perhaps the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. What makes this divine reversal so powerful is that it resolves the fundamental challenge of manifestation. The gap between your conscious intention and your subconscious programming. During waking hours, you may affirm abundance while your subconscious holds deep patterns of lack. You may visualize health while cellular memories of illness remain active beneath the surface. But during this reversal of sleep, these contradictions naturally resolve as your conscious and subconscious mind merge into a unified field of creative power. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with sleep. Instead of seeing those hours as merely time spent unconscious, you recognize them as your most powerful creative period when your consciousness functions at its highest level beyond the limitations of your waking identity. The moments before sleep become sacred. A time to carefully prepare for this reversal by assuming the precise state you wish to express through this heightened awareness. As this divine reversal begins to unfold each night, you approach what Florence Scovel Shinn recognized as perhaps the most crucial moment in the entire manifestation process, the moment of transfer. In that precious threshold between waking and sleeping, something remarkable occurs within your consciousness. Your limited conscious self with its clear intention and focused desire hands the scroll to the limitless creative power within your subconscious mind with its direct connection to universal forces. The hidden truth that transforms your manifestation practice is understanding that this isn't a metaphorical handoff. It's a literal transfer of creative authority from your surface awareness to the deeper levels of consciousness that shape reality itself. The scroll being passed isn't physical paper, but the complete impression of your assumed state. The feeling, the identity, the reality you've been embodying as you drift toward sleep. The journey behind the scenes of this transfer reveals the profound architecture of creation itself. Your conscious mind, brilliant as it is for analysis and directed focus, has limited creative power on its own. It functions primarily in the realm of effects, perceiving and responding to what already exists. But your subconscious mind operates in the realm of causes, directly interfacing with the quantum field of infinite possibility. When the scroll passes from one to the other, you're essentially moving your desire from the realm of effects to the realm of causes, from where things are perceived to where they are created. What makes this moment of transfer so crucial is that the quality of impression on the scroll directly determines the manifestation that follows. If what you've written on that scroll through your feeling, your inner speech, your assumed state is mixed with doubt or contradiction, that's precisely what will be impressed upon the subconscious. But if the scroll carries the clear, unmixed feeling of your wish fulfilled, That pure pattern becomes the template from which your subconscious creates. This moment of transfer explains why the state you hold as you fall asleep is exponentially more powerful than affirmations or visualizations practiced during waking hours. During the day, your conscious and subconscious often operate as separate systems, sometimes even working against each other. But in this precious threshold, they naturally align, creating a unified field of consciousness through which creation flows without obstruction or distortion. The decisions you make in the hour before sleep take on extraordinary significance. When you understand this transfer, the conversations you engage in, the content you entertain, all influence what will be written on the scroll you hand to the limitless creative power within. This is why masters treat the period before sleep as sacred, carefully curating their environment and consciousness to ensure the purest possible transfer. Now I want to explore how this moment of transfer begins to reshape not just your specific manifestation, but your entire understanding of how reality is created. There's a fascinating parallel between this nightly transfer of creative authority and the larger spiritual journey of surrendering the limited ego self to the boundless I am consciousness from which all things emerge. If you've experienced this profound moment of transfer between your conscious and subconscious mind, write in the comments, I passed the sacred scroll, as this sacred transfer deepens your understanding of manifestation. You encounter what may be the most revolutionary revelation in Florence Shinn's teaching, a complete reversal in how you perceive the relationship between day and night. Most cultural frameworks position the day as the time of activity, productivity, and creation, while night represents cessation, rest, and withdrawal. But the hidden truth that transforms lives is recognizing that night is not the end of creation. It is its holy beginning. This paradigm shift completely transforms your relationship with sleep itself. What appears from the outside as passive unconsciousness is actually the most active, fertile, creative period in your entire cycle of consciousness. The night isn't when creation pauses. It's when creation truly begins at the causal level in the unseen realms where all visible manifestation originates. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that true power doesn't lie in visible action, audible declaration, or physical movement. True power lies in the unseen, in the hidden, in the still womb of night, where consciousness dreams reality into form. This isn't metaphorical language or spiritual poetry. It's a precise description of how creation actually works. From invisible to visible, from formless to form, from potential to actual. Behind the scenes of this nocturnal creation is a fascinating biological reality that science is only beginning to comprehend. During sleep, particularly during deep delta states, your body undergoes its most profound restoration and regeneration. Cells repair and renew. Neural pathways reorganize. Hormones rebalance. The physical vehicle of your consciousness literally rebuilds itself, according to the template you've established before sleep. This biological regeneration is the perfect mirror of the consciousness, transformation occurring simultaneously. The mindset breakthrough comes and you realize night isn't a pause in your manifestation journey. It's the central act, the holy sanctum, the creative womb from which all visible manifestation emerges. Your daytime activities aren't creating your reality. They're expressing what was already established during the sacred darkness of night. This shift from seeing day as effect to recognizing night as cause, and day as effect, represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation understanding. What makes this understanding so liberating is that it releases you from the strain of trying to make things happen through constant daytime effort and activity. You recognize that the effortless surrender into sleep, carrying the feeling of your wish, fulfilled contains more creative power than all your waking striving combined. This explains why masters throughout history have emphasized the moments before sleep as the most potent for creation. They understood where true power lies. The impact of this understanding completely transforms your relationship with manifestation. Instead of exhausting yourself with techniques, affirmations, and visualizations during waking hours, you place your primary focus on the quality of consciousness you carry into sleep. Your nighttime routine becomes the centerpiece of your manifestation practice, with daytime awareness serving primarily to maintain and reinforce what you establish in the sacred darkness. As you embrace this revolutionary understanding of night as the beginning rather than the end of creation, you naturally arrive at what Florence Scovel Shinn recognized as the cornerstone of all effective manifestation, the sacred power of assumption. This isn't merely one technique among many. It's the fundamental principle that underlies the entire creative process. When you assume the feeling of your desire as already fulfilled, particularly as you drift towards sleep, you're engaging the most powerful creative force in the universe. The hidden truth that transforms lives is recognizing that assumption isn't pretense or self-deception. It's recognition of what already exists, at the level of potential, at the quantum level of possibility. When you assume the feeling of wealth or health, or love as already yours, you're not creating something from nothing. You're aligning with a pattern that already exists in the infinite field of possibility, bringing it into expression through your unique consciousness. Behind the scenes of this assumption is a fascinating quantum reality. At the subatomic level, particles exist in states of probability until observed. What physicists call the collapse of the wave function. Your consciousness, particularly your assumed state, is literally collapsing potential into form. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's aligned with our emerging scientific understanding of consciousness as a fundamental force in reality. The journey of transformation reaches its culmination in the absolute trust that everything you've imagined and felt tonight is already on its way to you. This trust isn't blind faith or wistful thinking. It's understanding the mechanics of how creation actually works. From invisible to visible, from feeling to form, from assumption to expression. Your wealth, your health, your relationships, your fulfillment, all are already yours in consciousness. You need only align with them through the power of assumption. What makes this trust so powerful is that it creates a completely different relationship with time and manifestation. You're no longer anxiously waiting for something to happen in the future. You're resting in the absolute, knowing that what you've established in consciousness must appear in form according to divine timing. This shift from seeking to knowing, from reaching to allowing, represents the most profound transformation in your manifestation journey. The decisions you make from this trust have a completely different quality than those made from conventional manifestation consciousness. You're no longer taking desperate actions to make something happen. Your choices flow naturally as expressions of who you already know yourself to be, aligned with the reality you've already established in consciousness. Now, I want to explore how this sacred understanding of assumption begins to reshape not just your manifestation practice, but your entire experience of moving through the world. There's a remarkable transformation that occurs when you recognize that reality isn't something that happens to you, but something that expresses through you from the assumptions you hold in the depths of your being. If this profound reversal in understanding night as creation's beginning resonates with your own experience, write in the comments, "I create from sacred darkness," As we close this sacred exploration together, I want to acknowledge the journey we've shared. If these teachings on the power of sleep and assumption have resonated with you, if you felt something stir within you that recognizes these truths, not as new information, but as remembrance of what you've always known, then our connection goes beyond mere words on a screen. The path of manifestation through conscious sleep that Florence Scovel revealed isn't meant to be traveled alone. Each night, as you enter that sacred temple of creation, know that you're part of a community of conscious creators who understand the profound power of assumption. If you'd like to continue growing with this community, simply subscribe to join us on this ongoing exploration of consciousness and creation. The universe responds not just to our words, but to our feeling states, our inner knowing, our assumptions about what's possible. If this message has awakened something within you, that recognition that you truly are the divine dreamer, let me know by writing, "I am the dreamer who dreams," in the comments below. This simple act of declaration is itself an assumption of power, a claiming of your creative authority. Before you continue your day, consider leaving a like on this video, not as validation for me, but as an acknowledgement to yourself that you're committed to this path of conscious creation. Each like creates a ripple in the collective consciousness, inviting others to discover these transformative teachings. The journey we've begun here continues in unexpected ways in our exploration of the sacred morning ritual. The perfect companion to this nighttime practice, the power you access in sleep, needs proper grounding upon waking. And that video reveals exactly how to maintain your creative momentum throughout your day. Click that video when you feel called to complete this sacred cycle of creation. Remember, the darkness of night isn't the end of creation. It's the holy beginning. And everything you've imagined and felt tonight is already making its way to you through the invisible bridge being built beneath your feet. Trust the process, honor the journey, and know that you are never alone as you walk this path of awakening.